LoveLore Library. Chapter 1187. When do we leave? Wang Kejin put the information into his pocket and looked up at the instructor. You pack up in these few days. The instructor said, the first task can be carried out as soon as possible. The second task is to plan and then act. Wang Kejin nodded. In his opinion, the first task was not technically difficult. It was just a college student and his girlfriend. It was a bit of a fuss to ask him to do this kind of task. However, although Wang Kejin disagreed in his heart, he still did not say anything. He also knew that the main mission this time, which was also the highlight of the show, was the second mission at the end. The first task might just be incidental. However, Wang Kejin did not expect that this task, which made him feel nothing, almost made him regret it for the rest of his life and spend the rest of his life in a hospital bed. Yang Ming and Huang Lele walked on the mountain road near the gold mine. Shoujia City under the night sky was obviously not as bright as the lights of Songjiang, let alone Donghai and Macau. The construction of this place would take another 5 years or even longer. Since this place became his own private island, Yang Ming was not stingy with his investment in this land. The king of assassins had to have a home. Yang Ming's Black Butterfly Assassin Group wanted to learn from the management model of the Butterfly family and turn the king of assassins into a large-scale organization. The headquarters of this organization was set up in Country X. That was the best. Although Country X could be regarded as a small island country in name and in fact, it had no legal status internationally. At best, this place could only be regarded as a private territory. However, Yang Ming did not have the ambition to establish an empire. The current situation was enough to meet his needs. He only needed to be a behind-the-scenes existence, controlling all the affairs of this land. Yang Ming's initial idea was that Li Chang set up a mercenary team, and Golden Bull continued to lead the assassin group to glory. The two teams trained together, but the focus was different. These required a detailed plan. In Yang Ming's mind, he had only sketched out a rough outline. Although this island had been bought by Old Buffon, and he was also the legal owner of this land, Yang Ming also knew that all this was just on the surface. If you don't have strong strength, it is impossible to stand here. The result in the future may be to create another small war-torn country. Therefore, Yang Ming wanted to firmly grasp the two forces of Li Chang and Golden Bull in his hands, or in other words, in the hands of his family. What through the ages? That was nonsense. Yang Ming was not a fan of cultivation, nor did he believe in things like cultivation. No matter how strong a person was, they would only last for a few decades. It was impossible for Yang Ming not to make plans for his descendants. At least, it seemed that his plan was still feasible. Not only could he solve the problem of polygamy, but he could also find a career for his descendants. In the future, we will settle down here. Huang Lele had been with Yang Ming these days. She watched him talk to Li Chang and General Kars. Huang Lele more or less understood some of Yang Ming's thoughts. Yang Ming did not hide it from Huang Lele. She would know about these things sooner or later. However, in contrast, Huang Xiaofei was only shocked. He had already learned from Huang Lele that this land had become Yang Ming's private property, and General Kars' attitude toward Yang Ming was easy to explain. Now, Huang Xiaofei wanted to see what kind of expression Li Ziqing would have at tomorrow's bidding conference. Maybe he didn't know yet, right? He racked his brains to fight for a place in Country X, but it was actually Yang Ming's territory. Huang Xiaofei finally understood what Yang Ming said before. As long as Li Ziqing and his son set foot on the land of Country X, it would be difficult for them to go back. Yes, it was very difficult. Isn't it good here? Although Yang Ming's question was rhetorical, he also understood in his heart that the current Country X was simply like a third-rate country in the last century. It was even worse than that. Here, there was no high-tech, no high-rise buildings, and not so many shops. It was indeed not a good place to live, but Yang Ming also understood that this was only temporary. Country X was very close to Europe because of its unique geographical location. Old Buffon had already started to apply for special European passports for Yang Ming and others. Once the passports were processed, Yang Ming could take a private jet to Europe to shop and travel at any time. Of course, old Buffon's wish was that Yang Ming could visit his house more often. However, this also solved the problem of Country X's boredom and lack of supporting facilities. Very good. It's very quiet. I like it very much. It's just that the internet speed is a bit slow. To play QQ games, it takes a long time to log in. Huang Lele said with some grievances, when I played Bubble Bobble with others, it was not that my skills were not good, but the internet speed was too slow. In the end, I was stuck to death. After listening to Huang Lele's words, Yang Ming suddenly felt a little dumbfounded. Only Huang Lele could say such classic words, right? However, what Huang Lele said was true. The internet line here was connected from other places. Country X itself did not have a telecommunications operator. Therefore, a port was shared by many places. The speed was naturally not fast. Moreover, Huang Lele connected to the server in Asia to play games. It would be strange if the speed could be fast. It will be better in the future. Old Buffon said that he wanted to set up a marine optical cable directly from his side. Yang Ming said, the speed will be faster then. That's good. Then I like it here very much. Huang Lele said simply. Yang Ming looked at Huang Lele. Those clear eyes didn't seem to be fake, but he still felt a little strange. Lele. Don't you think it's boring here? Is it inconvenient to buy things? Boring? I don't think so. It's more interesting to be with you than at home. Huang Lele said seriously, don't we have a private jet to buy things? Don't forget that I'm a flight attendant. I used to receive aircraft pilot training. Humph. Yang Ming was somewhat speechless about the optimistic Huang Lele. I don't know if Chen Mengyan and the others will have the same idea. Yang Ming naturally wanted to do so, but he was afraid that Chen Mengyan would feel monotonous. Yang Ming grabbed Huang Lele's hand. This girl, although she looked careless, could always cheer him up at critical moments and give him enough confidence. To be honest, if Huang Lele had backed out just now, Yang Ming might really reconsider whether his plan was really feasible. After all, it was very difficult to establish one's own family on an unfamiliar island. Although Yang Ming had also visited the butterfly family was also located in a very remote land surrounded by jungles and deserts. However, that was the accumulation and precipitation of several generations. They had cultivated a very reasonable way of life. Yang Ming didn't know if he could do that. Huang Lele's hand was a little painful from Yang Ming's grip, but there was an indescribable feeling of comfort. This feeling of being valued and cared for made her heart beat faster. Yang Ming felt that sometimes, having sex in the wild was indeed a very refreshing thing. Huang Rongjin and Zhang Xiaonao sat under a big tree and drank beer. The two had now become good friends. Originally, Huang Rongjin was very disgusted with Zhang Xiaonao, but after more contact, he found that Zhang Xiaonao was a person who did not have his own opinion. He was especially afraid of Zhang Jingyao. It could be said that if Zhang Jingyao asked him to go east, he would go east. If Zhang Jingyao asked him to beat a dog, he would not dare to drive a chicken. In addition, Zhang Xiaonao was also a relatively loyal and forthright guy. Listening to the sound of ecstasy in the distance, Zhang Xiaonao snorted, "Your sister's voice is very loud, listen again. Do you believe that I will tear off your ears?" Huang Rongjin glared at Zhang Xiaonao, but he also smiled bitterly in his heart. Lei is indeed a little too engrossed. However, as her brother, it is not appropriate for me to remind her. Zhang Xiaonao stuck out his tongue. He was just saying it. He did not dare to remind, let alone pique. The strength that Yang Ming showed in the past few days, as well as his father's humility in front of Yang Ming, left a deep impression on Zhang Xiaonao. Zhang Xiaonao could not afford to offend someone that his own father could not afford to offend. He just complained a few words to Huang Rongjin. He really did not dare to do anything else. If I knew earlier, I would have brought a girl. Zhang Xiaonao said with some regret. Yes, there are a lot of black girls here. I will find you one tomorrow. Huang Rongjin snorted with a smirk. Zhang Xiaonao was shocked. His beautiful face turned pale, and he waved his hand and shook his head. It was no wonder that he had this expression. A few days ago, he was also tempted by Yang Ming and Huang Lei. Finally, he couldn't help but call a black prostitute. However, Zhang Xiaonao was immediately unlucky. He did not expect the black prostitute's endurance and explosive power to be so strong. Not to mention that Zhang Xiaonao was a man 7 times a night. She directly tormented him until he almost could not get out of bed the next day. Not only was he scolded by Zhang Jingyao, but he was also laughed at by Huang Rongjin and Yang Ming. Yang Ming laughed at him, and he did not dare to refute. He could only find a place with Huang Rongjin in private. Why don't you try it? Zhang Xiaonao bared his teeth and showed a murderous look. Motherfucker, I would rather hide behind a big tree and fight 5 against 1. Who do you want to hit? Behind Zhang Xiaonao, there was Yang Ming's voice. Zhang Xiaonao was suddenly shocked. He thought that Yang Ming had heard him saying that Huang Lei was loud, and Yang Ming came to settle accounts with him. He was suddenly scared. But after thinking about it, it was not right. When he was talking, Huang Lei was shouting. Yang Ming must be by Huang Lei's side. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaonao breathed a sigh of relief and said, I want to hit, he is going to take a plane. Huang Rongjin said for Zhang Xiaonao. Chapter 1188. What plane? Where is the plane? Huang Lei inexplicably widened her eyes and looked at the dark night sky. She didn't find the flashing lights on the tail of the plane at all. Huang Rongjin was embarrassed. He originally thought that Huang Lei was not here, so he said such a sentence casually. But now, he found that his little sister was looking at him innocently. Huang Rongjin felt that this was a big loss of face. For these professional terms between men, it was normal for Huang Lei not to know. Huang Lei had not been exposed to these things since she was a child. Yang Ming was her first boyfriend. If Yang Ming did not mention it, then no one had mentioned it. Zhang Xiaonao was also a little creeped out by the sudden appearance of Yang Ming and Huang Lei. At this moment, the two should be passionate. How did it end so quickly? Could it be that Yang Ming is a fast shooter? Zhang Xiaonao was inexplicable. Suddenly, there was a lewd moaning sound in the distance. Zhang Xiaonao was even more shocked. He widened his eyes and exclaimed, What is this sound? Huang Rongjin was also shocked. Originally, he thought that the sound was the sound of Yang Ming and Huang Lei having sex in the wild. But now, Yang Ming and Huang Lei were standing in front of him. They didn't even take off their clothes. Where did the sound come from? Gorillas are mating. Don't tell me you haven't even heard this sound. Yang Ming glanced at the inexplicable Huang Rongjin and Zhang Xiaonao in surprise. Ah! Zhang Xiaonao's eyes widened. Gorillas are mating. I thought it was you. Thought what? Yang Ming glared. You didn't think it was me and Lei, right? Zhang Xiaonao was exposed, and his face suddenly turned red. There was no way to deny it. He nodded and said, I thought you and Lele were having sex in the wild. Zhang Xiaonao was young, and his words were not light or heavy. If it were Zhang Jingyao, he would never say such a thing because Yang Ming was not someone who could joke at his level. Of course, that was because Zhang Jingyao was too careful. Yang Ming might not care about this. Yang Ming was not the kind of person who was aloof and unapproachable. Therefore, for Zhang Xiaonao's joke, Yang Ming was not angry. He glared at Zhang Xiaonao and said, Do you think you can hear me and Lele having sex in the wild? Do you have a brain? Ha 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 ha. Huang Rongjin couldn't help but laugh. He pointed at Zhang Xiaonao, and he was almost out of breath. It turns out that what aroused your desire was 2 gorillas. Zhang Xiaonao's face suddenly turned green. He didn't expect the truth of the matter to be like this. Yesterday, when he was fighting with the black chick, his mind was still fantasizing about Huang Lele's ecstasy. He could only fantasize about it in his mind, but today, the beautiful illusion was shattered. What he fantasized about was just the cry of a female gorilla. This made Zhang Xiaonao suddenly feel like vomiting. Yang Ming also thought of something. He smiled and pulled the hand of Huang Lele, who was somewhat inexplicable, and said, Let's go. Let the 2 of them laugh here. Oh, okay. Huang Lele did not ask much. She followed Yang Ming and left here. Huang Rongjin was still laughing there, and Zhang Xiaonao vomited the beer that he had just drunk. This was destined to be a restless night. Li Lixin finally came. Under Li Ziqing's call, she set foot on the land of Country X. Li Lixin was not beautiful, but her body was very strong. She had a special kind of beauty. However, compared to Wang Xiaoyan, she was a lot worse. Even so, it attracted the attention of the perverts, Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu. However, after knowing that Li Lixin was a distant relative of the 2, Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu lost interest. This was the person who was going to help them fight. It was related to the future of the Li family in Country X. Li Ziqing warmly entertained Li Lixin, but there were no luxury hotels in Country X. They could only stay in a small hotel. Fortunately, Li Lixin often performed tasks in different environments, so she did not care too much about the environment in front of her. How is it? Are you confident? Although Li Ziqing knew that his niece was very powerful, he still asked with concern. Li Lixin snorted at Li Ziqing's caution, but she still said, There is no problem. It's just a small matter. Li Ziqing was relieved to hear that Li Lixin was so confident. In fact, bidding was just a formality in many cases. Just like now, the price of these minerals was basically set. Everyone already had a common psychological price in their hearts. The reason was very simple. If the price was too low, it was easy for the opponent to take advantage of it. If the price was too high, there would be no follow-up profit. Therefore, the price of each mineral was basically fixed. In the case of ensuring their own interests, the price of the mineral would stay at a more reasonable price. The rest was for these people to show their skills. Li Ziqing entered the venue with Li Tianjia, Li Tianyu, Li Lixin, and others. Li Ziqing was still immersed in the illusion of having a deep relationship with General Kars. He always felt that he was superior to others. Hey, Jeffers, how is it? Are you confident? Li Ziqing greeted a white man in English. This white man was a small coal mine owner near his iron mine. The money he earned was naturally not as much as Li Ziqing's iron mine, and he did not have as many connections as Li Ziqing. Jeffers had also asked Li Ziqing to help him get in touch with General Kars. So when he saw such an acquaintance, Li Ziqing naturally wanted to show off. Li Ziqing. Jeffers also saw Li Ziqing and walked over to him enthusiastically. Me? How can I have such great strength? It is good enough that I can keep my coal mine. But thinking about it, in that kind of small place, no one will compete with me. That's true. Li Ziqing patted Jeffers' shoulder and said with some regret, in these years, you haven't made much money. Otherwise, I can help you get a bigger mine. Yeah, the money on hand is limited. I also want to get a bigger mine, but I really don't have so much spare money. It's good that you have this intention. Thank you. Jeffers was a little excited. He didn't expect that after so many years, Li Ziqing could still remember him and help him enthusiastically. I don't have as much capital as you. This time, you must be going all out, right? For me, the main priority is to break even. The iron mine is certain. As for the others, it depends on the situation. Li Ziqing said proudly, anyway, I have more spare money on hand, so it is not a big deal. Yeah, with your relationship with General Kars, this time, there is no mine that you can't get. Jeffers said with emotion and envy, in the future, you have to take care of me, your younger brother. In fact, Jeffers was older than Li Ziqing, but when in Rome, do as the Romans do. He pretended to be a younger brother in front of Li Ziqing. Li Ziqing also enjoyed this feeling very much. Suddenly, his bones were soft, and his body was light. He quickly said, definitely. With our relationship, I will definitely take care of you. If there is an accident in my coal mine, Mr. Li, you have to lend a helping hand. Jeffers said while the iron was hot. This was his real purpose. The money in his hands was limited, and he was self-aware. He didn't think about gold mines, diamond mines, and the like. As long as he could guarantee the coal mine in his hands, it was already very good. Therefore, his main purpose was to get Li Ziqing to support and take care of him. That is for sure. Li Ziqing said halfway and suddenly choked. He was rejected when he looked for General Kars. Now that others were looking for him, could he help? However, since the words had already been said, Li Ziqing couldn't take it back. He had to bite the bullet and said, that is for sure, no problem. Li Ziqing said sincerely. This coal mine is not a popular thing. I don't think there will be anyone who wants to snatch it. Now, I just have to be perfunctory with Jeffers and keep my face. After Jeffers got a positive answer from Li Ziqing, he was relieved. As far as he knew, this time, someone really wanted to snatch his coal mine. He was not sure to compete with that person until the end, so he greeted Li Ziqing in advance. How would Jeffers know Li Ziqing's thoughts? He thought that Yang Ming was really popular, so his mood at the moment was particularly comfortable. He played a song and went to show off to his old friends. At the same time, he wanted to reveal a signal to his competitors in advance. That is, I know someone. My relationship with General Kars is very good. After bragging with Jeffers, Li Ziqing didn't take it seriously. He turned to prepare for the bidding with Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu. Why didn't the people of the Huang family come? Li Tianjia glanced around the venue, but he didn't find the figures of Huang Xiaofei and Huang Leilei. He didn't see Zhang Jingyao and Zhang Xiaonao, so he was a bit baffled. Previously, Li Ziqing was just bragging with Jeffers and enjoying the feeling of being on cloud nine. He really didn't pay attention to whether the Huang family came here. Now, after listening to Li Tianjia's words, he raised his head and looked around the venue. Sure enough, he didn't see Huang Xiaofei and Zhang Jingyao. Really? Li Ziqing looked around carefully, but he still didn't find anything. Do they feel that they can't do it and give up? There is this possibility. Li Tianjia frowned. However, Zhang Jingyao's purpose this time is here. How can he not come? Could it be that something unexpected has happened? However, the next scene was like a heavy hammer that smashed on the chests of Li Ziqing, Li Tianjia, Li Tianyu, and others. The most incredible thing that the Li family didn't want to see happened. Chapter 1189. Zhang Jingyao. He gets angry when I mention him. I don't know what wrong medicine this person ate. He actually went to support the Huang family. The Huang family, which was about to go bankrupt, got out of the predicament because of Zhang Jingyao. Now, the Huang family actually dares to challenge us. Li Tianyu said bitterly, we must teach them a lesson later. Forget it. It's better if they don't come. Li Tianjia shook his head. In this bid, in fact, our Li family doesn't have much confidence. General Kars also said that this time, it must be fair and just according to the customs here. Therefore, there is a boxing competition to determine the qualifications. We may not be able to get any benefits. The Huang family is here. If they see it, they will be a joke. Li Tianyu was slightly upset when Li Tianjia rebuked him. However, what Li Tianjia said was also a family matter, and it was indeed reasonable. Li Tianyu couldn't say anything more. He had to say, yes, but we are not bad. With the help of cousin Li Lexin, we will definitely get the expected share this time. Li Ziqing waved his hand and stopped the dispute between the two brothers. In fact, Li Ziqing also saw the open and secret struggle between Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu, but he was helpless. Don't fight. Today is a critical moment. We must unite against the outside. Before Li Ziqing's voice fell, the smile on his face froze. Father, what's wrong with you? Li Tianjia looked at his father with some surprise and asked curiously. Li Tianyu was also the same. He was very puzzled. Father, what's wrong with you? Huang Xiaofei. Li Ziqing felt that his breathing was a little irregular. He raised his hand and pointed behind Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu. He gasped, They are here, so what if they are here? Li Tianjia said disapprovingly. He didn't understand why his father would have such a big reaction because Huang Xiaofei's family came. Yeah, it's just a chance to ridicule them. Li Tianyu also snorted and turned around. However, at the moment he turned around, his smile also froze. Similarly, there was also Li Tianjia. Li Tianjia was so surprised that his mouth and eyes were wide open. He looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. General Kars and Li Chang, these two powerful figures of Country X, Li Ziqing, Li Tianjia, and Li Tianyu naturally recognized them. Before this, they had already spent a lot of effort on Li Chang. Although Li Chang claimed to be the captain, he was already the highest military officer in Country X. This time, the bidding for mineral management rights was organized by Li Chang. However, the information they could get about Li Chang was only Li Chang's appearance. They knew nothing else, and no one could contact Li Chang. Now, seeing Li Chang and General Kars walking together and entering the venue, it was not surprising, but what surprised them was that Huang Xiaofei was actually walking beside General Kars and Li Chang. How could Huang Xiaofei walk side by side with Li Chang and General Kars? What qualifications did he have to receive this special honor? Li Ziqing wanted to think that the three people just walked into the venue together, but the facts were often very harsh. Obviously, the three people were talking and laughing. They were very familiar with each other. Bodyguards stood beside them. The bodyguards did not stop Huang Xiaofei from approaching, which indirectly proved this. Behind the three people were Zhang Jingyao, Huang Rongtian, Huang Rongjin, and Zhang Xiaonao. They followed General Kars, Li Chang, and Huang Xiaofei and entered the venue. However, Li Ziqing and his sons all ignored a very important scene at the same time. That was, in front of General Kars, Li Chang, and Huang Xiaofei, it was Yang Ming and Huang Leilei who were walking. The order of the important people entering the venue was very specific. Yang Ming and Huang Leilei walked in front of General Kars, which highlighted the status of the two people above General Kars. However, Li Ziqing and his sons obviously did not realize this. They automatically ignored Yang Ming and Huang Lele, thinking that they just entered the venue first. They were not in the same team as General Kars and others. But in any case, the shock brought to Li Ziqing and his sons today had exceeded the limit they could bear. Li Ziqing clutched his chest tightly and could not speak. This scene was like a heavy hammer that slammed into the chests of Li Ziqing, Li Tianjia, Li Tianyu, and others. The most incredible thing that the Li family was most unwilling to see happened in front of them. How did Huang Xiaofei walk with General Kars and Captain Li Chang? Li Tianjia was the first to recover from the shock. Impossible, it is impossible. Is it possible? The problem is that they are indeed walking together now. Li Ziqing shook his head with a bitter smile and sat in his seat. No wonder the Huang family was so fearless before. I don't know how they got on the line with General Kars and Captain Li Chang, yes. It must be that Li Chang. Li Tianyu suddenly realized after listening to his father's words. Before that, I had not heard of Li Chang in Country X. He appeared later. The Huang family must know him, so they have become so popular now. Li Chang. This person is quite a character. I heard that the armed forces in Country X were pacified by him. Li Ziqing continued, this time, I am afraid that we are really in trouble. Not necessarily. Didn't General Kars say that this bidding will be very fair and just? Does he want to take the lead in violating the rules? Li Tianyu shook his head and said. This is also true. However, Huang Xiaofei is now making such a show. It is obvious that he wants to demonstrate to us. Moreover, if they really have a relationship with Captain Li Chang, they can definitely get some mineral shares from the inside. There is no need to participate in the bidding. Li Tianjia waved his hand and denied. Indeed, as Li Tianjia said, Huang Xiaofei did not come here to bid, but simply to demonstrate to Li Ziqing's family. The Huang family's gold mine was still the Huang family's. There was no need to bid at all. It could be said that the entire land of Country X now belonged to Yang Ming. What Yang Ming wanted, it was just a matter of words. This didn't require breaking any rules because Yang Ming himself was the one who made the rules. If one wanted to talk about fairness, then the world itself was unfair. There was no fairness between the creator of the game and the participants of the game. There was only unilateral obedience, and this could never be changed. Yang Ming and Huang Lele walked to the VIP seats in the first row and sat down quietly. Although Yang Ming had not looked up, he had been paying attention to the actions of Li Ziqing's family with his special ability. In fact, sometimes it was quite cool to peek at the scene of their psychological shock. Yang Ming felt that he was becoming more and more like this kind of superior person's bad taste. The bidding meeting was hosted by General Kars' secretary and Lu Xinyang. General Kars, Li Chang, Huang Xiaofei, Zhang Jingyao, and others also sat in the VIP seats under the stage. Of course, only these people were in the VIP seats. The mine owners who participated in the bidding were not eligible to sit here. Most of the mine owners here did not know Yang Ming and Huang Xiaofei. They only knew General Kars and Captain Li Chang. For these Asians, they were very surprised. What were the identities of these people? They could sit with General Kars and Captain Li Chang. Especially after Yang Ming and Huang Lele sat down, the two attracted the attention of the public. Yang Ming and Huang Lele were sitting in the middle of the VIP seats, which was the best position in the entire row of VIP seats. General Kars and Li Chang were just sitting on the side, which made these mine owners surprised. They also sighed. This young couple seemed to have a higher status than General Kars and Captain Li Chang. Li Ziqing's family also noticed this. They originally ignored Yang Ming and Huang Lele. At this time, they had to re-examine Yang Ming and Huang Lele. They actually sat in the middle of the VIP seats. Although Li Tianjia had already said that he did not care about Huang Lele, in fact, he still did not give up on Huang Lele. What he could not get was always the best. Before this, Li Tianjia still fantasized about riding Huang Lele under his crotch one day, but now, this idea had become an unrealistic fantasy. He also understood that all of this was impossible. The man next to Huang Lele was not as simple as he thought. He might have other identities that he did not know. Now, it was clear that this was the case. Yang Ming. Who the hell is he? Li Ziqing also noticed Yang Ming and Huang Lele. Could it be that his identity is higher than General Kars and Captain Li Chang? Li Ziqing's words did not continue, but it was not important. Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu could understand the meaning of his words. That was, Yang Ming's identity was higher than General Kars and Li Chang. Li Tianyu shook his head. Could it be that I have been underestimating Yang Ming's power? When he brought people to seize the gold mine last time, I thought he only brought mercenaries. Now it seems that the one who really has a relationship with Li Chang is Yang Ming. Yang Ming is sitting in the main seat. Li Ziqing, Li Tianjia, and Li Tianyu could not help but look at each other. They thought of the same problem. That was, what was the relationship between Li Chang and Yang Ming? Thinking of this, the three people's heads could not help but explode at the same time. A very bad idea spread in the minds of the three people. Chapter 1190. For a long time, Yang Ming had been a person ignored by Li Ziqing and his son. In their opinion, Yang Ming was not eye-catching. They even did not regard Yang Ming as a character. Before today, they were still very stupid and naive to think that the Huang family survived the crisis entirely because of Huang Xiaofei's words. He persuaded Zhang Jingyao, the fool, to help him. This fool would regret it sooner or later. But today, Li Ziqing and his son saw a different side. It seemed that all of this was decided by Yang Ming, and it had nothing to do with others. Whether it was Huang Xiaofei or Zhang Jingyao, they should not be the leaders of this matter. Yang Ming was the one who knew Li Chang or General Kars. From the seats of Yang Ming and Huang Lele and their arrogant attitude, Li Chang and General Kars could only be lower in status than them, not higher. So what did this mean? The cold sweat of Li Ziqing and his son immediately came out. Li Ziqing's face also became pale. Yang Ming, we underestimated him. Both Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu seemed to think of the same problem. That was, if Yang Ming was really the leader, could he be unfavorable to the Li family? Just as Li Ziqing's family was in fear, the bidding officially began. In fact, the bidding process was far less heroic and sensational than those auctions. Most people's psychological price was about the same, and the bidding was also concentrated on the more profitable gold and diamond mines. There were not many people competing for other minerals. In the entire bidding, the highlight was completely at the end, which was the competitive game. Each mine owner would send the female slaves they trained or the fighting masters from other places at a high price to win the final victory for them. Among them, the one who bid the most was a European. He sat behind Yang Ming. This was a relatively top-notch position in the entire venue. Of course, the order of these positions was also allocated according to one's economic strength. For this guy to be able to sit here, it meant that his ability was not ordinary. When he was bidding, Yang Ming noticed him, and he obviously also noticed Yang Ming. From the moment Yang Ming entered the door, this guy's eyes often wandered between Yang Ming, General Kars, and Li Chang. Of course, as for Huang Lele, who was beside Yang Ming, he only took a few glances and didn't do anything else. It was obvious that he was a very intuitive person. From the name tag in front of his seat, Yang Ming saw his name. Bobby was a very common European and American name. There was nothing special about it. However, Bobby was able to have the wealth and status that he had today, and it was not unrelated to his keen observation. When Yang Ming inadvertently turned around, Bobby keenly seized this fleeting opportunity. "Hello, sir. I am Bobby, an investor." Bobby smiled and looked at Yang Ming, speaking neither too fast nor too slow. If Yang Ming wanted to observe someone, he didn't need to look back. He could observe directly with his special ability. However, this was deliberately done by Yang Ming. The purpose was to see what kind of person this Bobby was and whether it was necessary to know him. After all, Country X was now his own territory. Yang Ming still wanted to make friends with this kind of big investor who came to his own territory. However, obviously, Bobby did not let go of any opportunity. "Hello, have you invested in a lot of minerals?" Yang Ming nodded to him and said casually. "Yeah, hee, who doesn't want to make a fortune? Who would complain that they have less money?" Bobby saw that Yang Ming did not ignore him, and he was overjoyed. "Sir, are you here to invest?" Yang Ming shook his head and smiled. "Do you think I am here to invest?" After listening to Yang Ming's words, Bobby was slightly stunned, but then he smiled. "Of course, we are all here to invest for you." Yang Ming really admired Bobby's keen reaction. With just a few details, Bobby thought that Yang Ming was the real behind-the-scenes leader. It seemed that this Bobby was a smart person. It was a very pleasant thing to deal with smart people. Yang Ming also welcomed these people to invest on his private island. "You are welcome," said Yang Ming faintly. However, these simple words made Bobby's interest increase. His mood could be said to be extremely excited. Bobby could sit in this position at the bidding. Naturally, he had his own strengths. The seats at the bidding were also arranged according to the number of minerals owned by these mine owners, so this also represented Bobby's glory in Country X. There must be a close relationship between him and General Kars. Now, Yang Ming was sitting in the main seat of the VIP seat, while General Kars and Li Chang were sitting on the side. When Yang Ming turned back to talk to him, General Kars did not show anything. Especially when Yang Ming said the words, "You are welcome," General Kars sat so close that it was impossible not to hear it. What did these words represent? This represented this piece of land, and it represented absolute power. It was impossible for someone who didn't have absolute power in Country X to say such arrogant words. Yang Ming said this sentence naturally, which indirectly explained the identity of Yang Ming. It was not difficult for Bobby to guess the position of Yang Ming in Country X. It could be said that if he successfully contacted Yang Ming this time, then he could stand firm in Country X in the future. At least, he would not be bullied. Bobby was not afraid that other mine owners would bully him. He had a lot of armed forces in his hands, but he was afraid that the Country X officials would bully him. The power in Li Chang's hands was not something that they could compete with. "This is my boxer. How about it?" Bobby pointed to an Asian girl in the ring in front of him. Yang Ming's eyes followed Bobby's finger and fell on the ring in front of him. Indeed, in a row of European and American black female boxers, the Asian female boxer looked a little thin and weak. Some black female boxers were even twice her size. The Asian female boxer stood there quietly. Unlike the others who were rubbing their palms together, she looked very depressed. However, Yang Ming did not underestimate her. In the eyes of this female boxer, Yang Ming saw indifference and numbness. Other than that, there was no emotion. Yang Ming suddenly felt a chill in his heart. He had seen this gaze before. The female assassin who broke into Wang Xiaoyan's villa had a similar gaze. It could be said that when a person reached this point, he could no longer be called a person, but a machine that harvested human lives. They would only simply obey the orders of their master to kill people. They would never give up until they achieved their goal. However, Yang Ming certainly did not think that there was any relationship between the female boxer in front of him and the female assassin who broke into Wang Xiaoyan's villa last time. Although this kind of person was relatively rare, it was not impossible. At least, according to Fang Tian, the butterfly family could also train such an assassin. However, the butterfly family was only training for others. They would not train such a killing machine in their own family. At this moment, Yang Ming somewhat admired this Bobby. He could actually get such a killing machine. Perhaps, this boxing match already had a result. Although the muscles of this Asian female player were not very developed, there were no lumps of meat. However, in many cases, killing people did not require too many beautiful muscles. As long as the muscles of the legs, arms, and other parts of the body were routinely trained, some strange killing moves could be completed. Wang Xiaoyan was a typical example. Although Yang Ming did not hate the kind of woman who was full of lumps of meat, Yang Ming did not dare to compliment her when it came to sharing a bed with her. Not bad. How much did you spend to buy it? Yang Ming asked in a flat tone. Not much, $5 million. Bobby was not sure if Yang Ming understood the underground boxing match, and he was not sure if Yang Ming could see the uniqueness of the Asian female boxer. Therefore, whatever Yang Ming asked, he could only answer truthfully. However, most people would not see the uniqueness of this female boxer, including the other female boxers on the stage and the mine owners under the stage. They all looked at the Asian female boxer with a mocking look. In their opinion, Bobby was purely here to make a fool of himself. How dare such a thin and weak woman be put on the stage? Isn't she just a piece of trash that can be knocked down with one punch? In addition to Bobby's Asian female boxer, there was another Asian female player on the stage, Li Lixin. However, Li Lixin was wearing a Muay Thai outfit at the moment, and she was also warming up, so others did not underestimate her. Muay Thai had its own strengths. Although many internet legends said that Muay Thai originated from MMA, there were also some who said that Muay Thai was created by Nai Nongdong during the 18th century Ayutthaya dynasty. However, no matter what the truth was, a martial art that could be passed down for many years always had its strengths. Therefore, the people on the stage did not dare to take Li Lixin, who seemed to have real kung fu, lightly. Bobby's Asian female boxer stood motionless on the stage. It was more like she was here to make up the numbers. $5 million. Very cheap. Yang Ming was telling the truth. This kind of killing machine, $5 million was not expensive. How much would it cost for an assassin to take on an assassination mission? Therefore, it seemed that Bobby had picked up a big bargain. Yeah. Bobby couldn't see whether Yang Ming was praising him or mocking him because Yang Ming's face had no expression at all. Bobby was a very observant person, but in the face of Yang Ming, he couldn't figure out the real thoughts of Yang Ming. I also met her by accident. When I saw her appearance, I almost ignored her. If it weren't for her amazing performance, I wouldn't have spent so much money. Bobby didn't understand Yang Ming's real thoughts, so he could only explain it to himself. She is a killing machine. What's her name? Yang Ming changed the topic. He didn't want to be entangled with Bobby in terms of skills. Yang Ming didn't want to say too much, so as not to reveal his identity. Victoria. Bobby smiled. How is it? This name is beautiful, isn't it? The name of an ancient queen. You named it. Yang Ming felt that it was weird for an Asian to have an English name. Yes, she didn't have a name. Her original owner called her number 3. Bobby spread out his hand. Maybe he trained a lot of people like her. Victoria is the 3rd, so she is called number 3. Compared to number 3, it's better to call her Victoria. Yang Ming sighed. Victoria is Victoria. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it has nothing to do with me. I hope you can win more shares. Thank you. Bobby nodded cheerfully. The game started, and Yang Ming also turned his head. However, his eyes stayed on Li Lixin for a long time. This woman gave Yang Ming a familiar feeling. It seemed that he had seen her somewhere. It was like déjà vu. Who does the woman in the Thai boxing suit represent? Yang Ming turned his head and asked Li Chang. Brother Yang, that person was brought by Li Ziqing. She represents Li Ziqing's family. Li Chang saw Yang Ming asking, so he quickly left General Kars, who was talking, and spoke to Yang Ming. Yang Ming nodded. Li Ziqing, it turns out to be him. Did I see this woman when I was in Singapore? Yang Ming shook his head and didn't have much of an impression. It was very vague. It seemed that the impression was very shallow, and he couldn't grasp the clue. This small detail also fell into Bobby's eyes, and it strengthened his thoughts. Yang Ming's identity and status were definitely not ordinary. It was very likely that he was above Li Chang and General Kars. The first game was to compete for a diamond mine. This diamond mine was recently discovered and had not yet been mined, so the competition was extremely fierce. Almost all the powerful mine owners had invested in this diamond mine. Therefore, there were as many as 12 players in the first game. Of course, the 12 people could not be mixed into a melee. The game adopted a group system. In the first round of group matches, 6 players would be eliminated. Li Ziqing was very smart and did not invest in this diamond mine. He knew his own strength, and he knew how many people would compete for this diamond mine, so Li Ziqing did not think about it at all. He understood that even if he won this diamond mine, he would make a lot of enemies. Now, the situation in Country X was very unclear. Yang Ming's identity was confusing. It was a very unwise choice to make enemies with other mine owners. Victoria's opponent was a black female boxer who looked very burly. Her muscles were bulging. Yang Ming was confident that if she punched him, even someone like Yang Ming would have a few fractures. However, although Victoria looked very thin and small, her body was unusually agile. The black female boxer's punches were very fast, but none of them hit Victoria. Victoria dodged them cleverly. At the beginning, the black female boxer was still excited that she could choose such a weak opponent, but soon, she was a little impatient. The taste of missing every punch, no one would feel good. Sure enough, the black female boxer began to be a little irritated. When people were irritated, they would be in a mess. In the end, as Yang Ming expected, Victoria suddenly stood up and hit the Dasui acupoint on the back of the black female boxer's neck when the black female boxer made a mistake. The black female boxer's eyes suddenly protruded, and she fell to the ground with a muffled groan. According to Yang Ming's judgment, this black female boxer was not dead, but she was in a vegetative state. One of the mine owners in the stands let out an angry roar. Obviously, this black female boxer was his, and he lost. Not only did he lose the diamond mine, but he also looked at the black female boxer. He was determined not to continue to participate in the game. Sir, your boxer. The staff walked to the angry mine owner and asked in a low voice. Throw her away. Throw her into the sea to feed the sharks. She actually ruined my big event. I usually let her eat so many cows and sheep for nothing. The mine owner said fiercely. The staff nodded, and the black female boxer was carried down. Although Yang Ming couldn't bear it, there was no other way. Every game had its own rules. This black female boxer lost, so the fate that awaited her was to be abandoned by the owner. What was worse was that there was no need for her to be rescued. Yang Ming saw very clearly that Victoria hit the black female boxer's Dasui acupoint with great strength. Even if this black female boxer did not die now, it was only a matter of time. The black female boxer was carried out of the ring. Victoria's eyes, which were originally full of murderous intent, returned to calmness. It was like a clear lake without the slightest emotion. Bobby smiled softly. This was the result he had long expected. If this kind of group elimination did not advance smoothly, then he would have wasted so much money to buy Victoria. The remaining 6 people were still in the group elimination system. Victoria still won easily, but under her hands, no one could stand up again. Almost all those who were knocked down by Victoria were either dead or seriously injured. Their bosses all complained and lamented. Victoria was very similar to Yang Ming. She often didn't make a move. Once she made a move, she would definitely subdue the enemy. At other times, she had been dormant, like a hungry wolf observing its prey. This was the typical style of an assassin. Yang Ming was a little interested in this Victoria. What kind of environment was she trained in? The last game was the deciding game. Victoria was up against an Italian blonde. The girl's figure was not burly, but her muscles were very developed. At first glance, she was the kind of person who had been through hundreds of battles. She was not the so-called good-looking, but useless, flowery frame. The Italian girl also had a preliminary understanding of Victoria before and knew her style. Therefore, at the beginning of the game, the Italian girl did not rush to attack, but used offense as a defense. She firmly protected several important parts of herself. Before Victoria made further moves, she also remained silent. Hey! The Italian girl made a fake move. Victoria did not move for a long time, which made her a little anxious, but she was not stupid. She did not dare to attack rashly, so she made a tentative fake move to see how Victoria's reaction was. However, to her disappointment, Victoria was not confused by her fake move. She still stood quietly in the ring, motionless. Unlike the Italian girl, Victoria didn't even take any defensive action. She just stood there, just standing there. This kind of numb action made people feel that she was provoking. Chapter 1192. At least, many of the mine owners in the stands thought so, but Yang Ming did not think so. A good defense did not require any preparation in advance. The assassin emphasized speed and reaction ability, and Victoria happened to have these 2 points. She was fast, and her reaction was keen. After the Italian girl's failed attempt, she was not as irritated as other female boxers. Instead, she regained her calmness again. While she defended herself tightly, she was also looking at Victoria. As the saying went, the layman watched the excitement, and the expert watched the skill. In the absence of the slightest excitement, the people in the stands showed a lack of interest. Many people had been staring intently at the beginning, but now they lowered their heads and did their own things. The confrontation between the 2 people was not lively at all. Although Yang Ming knew that the 2 were in a situation where they were on the verge of breaking out, no one was willing to make the first move. However, the others did not know this, so there would be a reaction from the top. After a long time, the Italian girl's attention was not as focused as before. After all, she was a boxer, not a professional assassin. What a boxer emphasized was the skill and strength of the punch, not this kind of psychological game. At the moment when the Italian girl showed slack, Victoria moved. Yang Ming smiled slightly. The outcome was already predictable. The Italian girl was suddenly at a disadvantage and was in a passive state. Victoria kicked the Italian girl's perineum. Don't think that only the man's perineum was vulnerable. In fact, women were equally vulnerable. Victoria obviously understood this. This move was similar to Wang Xiaoyan's end of posterity kick. Victoria understood, and the Italian girl obviously understood as well. When Victoria's leg came, the Italian girl's face suddenly changed slightly. She jerked sideways, trying to avoid Victoria's kick. At this level of wrestling, there were no rules. Even the rules of the underground boxing market did not exist. It was completely random. Whoever was powerful would have the last laugh. Although the Italian girl's strength was not weak, she was obviously a professional who had undergone formal training, so she would obviously be constrained by some rules. When she punched, she was already used to it and had a specific routine, but Victoria obviously did not. Her skill obviously had no pattern to speak of. It could be said that it was completely messy. Just like Yang Ming's glance, a seemingly ordinary move could bring a fatal blow to the enemy. Victoria's kick was just a feint. Seeing that the Italian girl dodged, Victoria immediately retracted the leg that she had just kicked out, and quickly changed her figure and rushed toward the Italian girl. The Italian girl's attention was originally on Victoria's leg. She was glad to avoid this kick. She did not expect that Victoria's previous move was a feint, and the real move was behind. She was shocked. However, the Italian girl had undergone formal training after all. Although she was a little surprised, she was not nervous. It was too late to hide now. The Italian girl could only face Victoria's attack head-on. In her opinion, Victoria's figure was much thinner than her. In such a head-on collision, she still had an absolute advantage. Sure enough, after Victoria noticed the Italian girl's intention, she did not continue to attack. She also knew her weakness. This kind of unequal collision would not have a good result. Seeing that Victoria gave up the attack, the Italian girl was suddenly delighted. She found Victoria's weakness, that was, Victoria did not dare to fight head-on with her. Recalling the previous boxing matches, this was indeed the case. Victoria often won by skill. She did not have the process and experience of fighting head-on with the enemy. Thinking of this, the Italian girl also made up her mind and began her new round of attack. This time, she changed the previous confrontation policy and began to try to take the initiative to attack. It was the kind of head-on attack. She did not pay attention to what Victoria was doing, but she kept attacking her. At this time, the Italian girl gradually understood that those who had been defeated by Victoria paid too much attention to their own defense. So, when they launched an attack on Victoria, they had to always pay attention to whether Victoria would sneak attack. But the more it was like this, the more constrained it was. There was a feeling that they could not use their strength. The final result was that they were afraid, and Victoria seized the opportunity to kill them. Therefore, since the Italian girl had figured this out, she would not give Victoria any more chances. The Italian girl did not care what Victoria was doing. She just attacked blindly. In this way, it was effective. Sure enough, Victoria began to dodge. Under the fierce attack of the Italian girl, there was no room to fight back. She could only defend and retreat. The Italian girl saw that her attack was effective, and she was overjoyed. She attacked Victoria more frantically and no longer defended herself. Originally, it was Victoria who had the upper hand, but in this way, the Italian girl successfully reversed the previous situation. The owner of the Italian girl was also an Italian named Merit. He was also a very powerful guy. It was said that he was also inextricably linked to the mafia. In short, on the ground of Country X, he was the guy who was second only to Bobby. Originally, when he saw that Bobby had brought such a strange woman and killed several people as soon as she came on the field, Merritt was hesitant about whether he could win the final victory. However, when he saw that the Italian girl now had the upper hand, he was overjoyed. To be honest, he did not know how to box. He was just watching the fun. When it came to making money, he could still say something, but for this, he was completely a layman. He didn't know why Victoria was at a disadvantage. He was completely watching the fun. When he saw that his Italian girl had the upper hand, he immediately cheered. He had been competing with Bobby for a long time, so at this moment, when he saw that his boxer overshadowed Bobby's boxer, he was naturally very excited. Damn it! Bobby cursed and was somewhat discouraged. He also knew the strength of merit and knew that the person he found was definitely not a mediocre person. What's wrong? Are you disappointed? Yang Ming heard Bobby's low roar and asked faintly. This is not the case. It's a fair competition. I admit defeat. Bobby smiled. He didn't want Yang Ming to see his stingy side. Lost? Not necessarily. Yang Ming shook his head. Let's continue to watch, but the result will not disappoint you. Bobby was stunned. Although he didn't understand why Yang Ming was so sure, he still said, I hope I can count on your auspicious words. The Italian girl attacked crazily, and Victoria kept dodging. Victoria originally wanted to wait for the Italian girl to exhaust her physical strength before she counterattacked. But now, it seemed that the Italian girl was very energetic. She seemed to have received long-term training. Her endurance was unusually strong, so Victoria had to change her mind. Because every game, although there were no rules, there was a time limit. They couldn't just keep fighting indefinitely, right? If the two people did not defeat each other at the specified time, it could only be judged as a draw. In this way, unless one party voluntarily withdrew, both parties would get the right to operate the mine at the same time. In this way, a gold mine would be divided into two, and the two parties would operate it together. This was a situation that no one wanted to see, so only one person could stand on the stage. Of course, this situation rarely happened, but it did not mean that it would not happen. Judging from the current situation, it was not strange for this game to end in a tie. Bobby was anxious, and Merritt was also anxious. People were always like this. They were never satisfied animals. Merritt didn't think that he could win against Bobby before. In his opinion, Bobby must have come prepared. After that, seeing that his Italian girl was not defeated by Bobby's Victoria, Merritt's heart began to stir. Later, when he saw that the Italian girl actually had the upper hand, Merritt began to fantasize that he could win the final victory. The Italian girl was actually very anxious. Blindly attacking was like playing a monkey. She couldn't hit the other party at all. This was not fun. She also wanted to end the battle as soon as possible and no longer continue to drag it out. However, although Victoria did not attack, she was very dexterous and did not give the Italian girl a chance to attack her. It was just that this situation continued blindly, and the result of this game would be a draw. Victoria understood what Bobby meant when he asked her to come up, so she couldn't wait any longer. Victoria had no choice but to look for an opportunity to give the Italian girl a fatal blow while minimizing the damage to herself. Finally, Victoria waited for this opportunity. When the Italian girl launched an attack on Victoria's back again, Victoria seized this opportunity sharply. Victoria did not dodge this time, but exposed her entire back to the Italian girl. The Italian girl seemed to cherish this opportunity very much. She concentrated on punching Victoria. Boom! Victoria's back was hit by the Italian girl. Victoria let out a muffled roar, but at the same time, the Italian girl made a louder and sharper roar. This roar immediately overshadowed Victoria's previous roar. The huge body of the Italian girl slowly fell on the ring. She gasped for breath, one hand covering her small abdomen, and her whole body was trembling. Victoria's speed was very fast. Almost no one saw how she did it, but the people here didn't care about this. They only valued the result. As for the process, it didn't matter, right? Chapter 1193. Victoria won. However, obviously, it could be seen from Victoria's painful look that the Italian girl's last attack was still very heavy, resulting in some injuries to Victoria's back. However, she still won. She was the final winner. Good. Bobby couldn't help but subconsciously hit the table in front of him, but he might have suddenly thought of Yang Ming in front of him. He suddenly apologized and said quickly, "I'm sorry, sir. I was too excited. But you are right. She won." Yang Ming shrugged and said nothing. "Congratulations, Mr. Bobby." "Thank you." Bobby was relieved when he saw that Yang Ming didn't care. Merit, because the Italian girl was knocked down, was in a bad mood. He scolded, but because of his identity, he didn't leave on the spot. However, his current mood could be imagined. He was extremely upset. Merit obviously couldn't have prepared only one female boxer to participate in the competition, but this Italian girl was probably the strongest among all the players. Otherwise, it was impossible to send her to participate in this most important game. It could be said that the biggest highlight of the entire bidding was this diamond mine. Although the other mines were also very good, the most profitable one should be this one. Bobby was the final winner. Lu Xinyang issued a 10-year diamond mining license to Bobby. Yang Ming learned from the previous lesson this time. The new signed contract was no more than 10 years, which was also conducive to management and recontracting. These investors were obviously more welcoming of this approach. Although the situation in Country X seemed to be good at present, who knew what would happen in the future? Maybe one day a temporary regime would emerge and take back their mines. In that case, their investment would be in vain. This was what everyone didn't want to see. Of course, Yang Ming firmly believed that this possibility would not happen again, but Yang Ming did not say much to these investors. He also approved of this short-term contract. In addition to this diamond mine, Bobby also invested in several other nearby mines. Of course, he didn't want to have a stiff relationship with Merit. Obviously, he understood the principle of overflowing water. If he was the only one who had a monopoly, then he would become the public enemy of all investors at the scene. Therefore, Bobby deliberately diverged from Merit. The mines that Merit wanted, except for this largest diamond mine, were all different from him. This way, Merit would not end up with nothing. Other small investors also aimed their main targets at some mines that the two did not want. These mines were relatively small in scale and output was not high. Obviously, Bobby and Merit were not interested. Father, the guy named Bobby, also participated in the bidding for the gold mine. Li Tianjia frowned and looked at Victoria's amazing performance on the stage. All her opponents fell at her feet. There was no doubt that Victoria was the final victor in the next few matches. This kind of pressure inevitably made the people of the Li family anxious. However, in fact, Yang Ming saw very clearly that Victoria was not lightly hit by the Italian girl. Although it was on the back, which was not a very important position, it was inevitable that she would be injured. Her condition would be affected more or less. Sure enough, Victoria did win the last few games, but she was not as decisive as before. Although the result was good, in the process, Victoria inevitably suffered some injuries. I don't know if Li Lexin is her opponent. Li Tianyu was also a little anxious. He complained that his father was too conservative and careful. Previously, Li Ziqing, Li Tianjia, and Li Tianyu had discussed it. This time, they would focus on the previous iron mine and a gold mine near the iron mine. They would only focus on these two mines. Li Lexin also easily defeated the contenders for the iron mine. Judging from Li Lexin's skills, she did not seem to be weaker than the Asian girl, so this was why Li Tianyu was depressed. If Li Ziqing could listen to his advice and have the attitude of sowing widely, maybe he would get more now. Those big black female boxers who looked good but were useless should not be Li Lexin's opponent. Now, all hopes were placed on the last gold mine, and Bobby was among the competitors for the gold mine. How could Li Tianyu not worry? Li Lexin should be able to do it. Li Tianjia could only comfort himself now. Okay, don't say it. I understand what you two mean. This time, I made a mistake. I didn't expect Li Lexin to be so good at fighting. Those black female boxers are not her opponents. If I knew this earlier, we would have invested in a few more small mines. Li Ziqing sighed. However, the relationship between Yang Ming, Li Chang, and General Kars is unclear. Now it is not appropriate to be too ostentatious, so as not to bring unnecessary trouble to ourselves. Thinking of the unclear relationship between Yang Ming, Li Chang, and General Kars, Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu's chests were inexplicably trembling. Indeed, there was still the biggest problem at hand that had not been solved. That was Yang Ming's attitude. In his own family, he had cheated Huang Xiaofei of 40 billion patakas. Would Yang Ming let it go so easily? No matter from which perspective, as long as Yang Ming was a normal person, he would find trouble with them. Li Ziqing asked himself. If he were Yang Ming, he would take this opportunity to find trouble. So when he thought of this, Li Ziqing was a little irritated. He did not care so much about the success or failure of the bid. After all, it was still a big problem whether he could gain a foothold in Country X in the future. It was too early to consider the gold mine. If Yang Ming insisted on revenge, even if he won 100 gold mines, it would be useless. Thinking of this, Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu no longer complained. After all, the problem in front of them was very realistic. Finally, it was the gold mine competition. Li Lexin easily qualified in the group, just like when she competed for the iron mine. Victoria, too, successfully defeated her previous opponent. Li Lexin and Victoria, the two Asian girls, became the final highlight of the entire game. In fact, the bidding competition had continued until now. Many people had more or less gotten the minerals they wanted. Almost everyone had a share. Although some were not very ideal, they could make do with it. So now, most people had the attitude of watching the show, including Merit. In fact, in his heart, he hoped that Bobby could lose this game, and then he would lose a lot of face. Merit could find a psychological balance. Withdraw. Yang Ming looked at Victoria and then said to Bobby faintly. Withdraw. Why? Bobby was stunned and looked at Yang Ming with some doubts. Victoria is probably not that person's opponent. Yang Ming didn't know Li Lexin's name because when the contestants were introduced, they only introduced who they represented, and their own names were ignored. Yes, who would care about a person who was driven to the stage by her master like a slave to work for him? Or, in the eyes of these investors, these people were not people at all. Although Yang Ming was very helpless, there was no way. Although he was very strong, he was not strong enough to change the rules of the game in this world. In the territory of North Africa, although Country X had become his private island, he could not change anything. This was a society where the strong preyed on the weak. There was no fairness or unfairness. Yang Ming sat here and looked down at these investors. This was originally unfair. Therefore, it was normal for these investors to look at their fighters with condescending gazes. It's impossible, right? Bobby obviously felt that Victoria was invincible. She has defeated all her opponents, including the Italian girl that Merit found. Yes, that's right. Yang Ming nodded. However, Victoria was injured in that game. Now, she should be overdrafting her physical strength. What she needs is rest, not to continue fighting. That's right. Oh. She needs to rest. Bobby seemed to have heard a very funny thing. Yang Ming shrugged. He didn't want to try to change Bobby's thoughts because his thoughts had been deeply ingrained in his mind, so Yang Ming didn't have any need to explain. He just said, "I'm just reminding you kindly." "Thank you, sir." Bobby also smiled. The game began. Li Lexin also carefully observed Victoria before. She seemed to be aware that Victoria was injured, so she was not in a hurry to attack. She wanted to determine whether Victoria was really injured, or she deliberately made a confusing posture. Li Lexin's skills were not weak. The mysterious boss personally taught them some strange training methods in order to train them. Although the behind-the-scenes boss seemed to only know theoretical knowledge, these theories were not armchair strategies, but they had a lot of truth. As long as they followed these training, it would not take long to achieve extraordinary results. Li Lexin was one of the beneficiaries, which was why they were in awe of the behind-the-scenes boss from the bottom of their hearts. Victoria seemed to smell the danger of Li Lexin. For other people, she was not as nervous as she was now, but now, she was more cautious. She knew her own situation. The attack of the Italian girl before really hurt her. The ribs on her back might have been broken, but she had no time to check and bandage it. When the referee waved the flag in his hand, the game officially began. Li Ziqing's mood was very complicated now. The victory that he originally longed for had become a little dull at this moment. Chapter 1194. The finals had finally begun. This was a small climax of this auction. The two Asian girls, who were originally not favored by many investors, suddenly rose up and won the final ownership of the mine for their owner. And now, the two of them were facing each other. What most people wanted to see was a wonderful fight, not the final result. Except for Li Ziqing and Bobby, no one would care who won in the end. Silence. The entire venue was quiet. Whether it was in the ring or outside the ring. Li Lexin and Victoria just stood there looking at each other. No one made the first move. Perhaps both of them were testing each other. However, Victoria was very clear about her situation. At this moment, if she could delay for a while, she could recover a little bit more, and she would have a better chance of winning. After Li Lexin observed for a long time, she began to launch the first round of attacks. Obviously, she noticed that Victoria was very weak now. She was completely holding on, so Li Lexin keenly seized this opportunity. She didn't want to give Victoria a chance to breathe. If the enemy didn't move, she wouldn't move. This state could only give Victoria time to recharge, so Li Lexin launched an attack first. Although Li Lexin wore a formal Muay Thai outfit, her movements were not rigid. Instead, they were very flexible and dexterous. It made Yang Ming feel that Li Lexin also had the potential to be an assassin because the momentum on her body was familiar to Yang Ming, just like Yang Ming himself. The Muay Thai in Li Lexin's hands was not just Muay Thai. It was more of a Muay Thai posture, but after Li Lexin's changes, it became a fierce killing move. In terms of strength alone, Victoria did not lose to Li Lexin, but now, Victoria had experienced many rounds of matches, and her back was injured. She was in a state of serious physical exhaustion. She was like a crossbow. All of this was seen in the eyes of Yang Ming. Of course, it did not escape Li Lexin's eyes. She knew this, so she launched an attack without any scruples. In the beginning, Victoria could barely resist, but in the face of Li Lexin's powerful attacks, Victoria was obviously unable to resist. In the ring, she began to retreat. Her arms, chest, and legs were inevitably hit by Li Lexin again and again. In the beginning, the investors in the stands and Bobby himself thought that Victoria was still playing the previous game of pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. Just like when she faced the Italian girl before, she would give a fatal blow at the critical moment. However, they were wrong this time. Victoria's performance was completely out of their expectations. Victoria's face turned pale from the initial indifference, and her eyes turned from the initial indifference to the current sharpness. Yes, at this moment, Victoria also understood her fate. She wasn't Li Lixin's opponent. Perhaps before she was injured, it was uncertain who would emerge victorious. But now, Victoria understood that it was only a matter of time before she fell. Her pale face wasn't because Victoria was scared, but because she was really exhausted. The sharpness in her eyes reflected her true thoughts. She couldn't accept it. It was not that she was not strong enough, but her physical strength and injuries did not allow her to play her true level. In fact, Victoria's heart was not as cold as she looked. She was also a normal girl with a warm childhood and loving parents. However, the family's change made her an orphan, and then she was adopted from the orphanage by an Egyptian. At that time, little Victoria left the orphanage under the envious eyes of the orphans. Victoria herself also thought that she would have a happy future. However, the Egyptian did not raise her as a daughter as she imagined. Instead, he took her to a prison-like city, where there was a group of orphans like her. From that day on, Victoria understood her fate. She was trained as a killing machine. There was no tomorrow, no future, only the present. Stepping on the corpses of her companions, Victoria survived and trained her killing skills. Then, she was selected by Bobby. He bought her from the Egyptian and continued to act as a killing machine. It was not that Victoria did not want to defect and leave Bobby, but she could not. When she just went to the Egyptian's base for death training, a chip was implanted in her body. It was said that it could track her position. In fact, it was a time bomb, and the bomb's remote control was in the hands of Bobby and the Egyptian. This indicated that her fate was either to die in the ring or to die in the hands of Bobby or the Egyptian. She was not sure whether the remote control was in the hands of Bobby or the Egyptian. Boom! While Victoria's thoughts drifted, Li Lixin seized this opportunity and kicked Victoria's left chest. Victoria flew up and fell heavily on the edge of the ring. The huge damage caused Victoria's body to tremble violently. Her chest seemed to be smashed, making Victoria suffer. At this moment, Victoria really felt that death was approaching. Death was in front of her eyes. Li Lixin saw that this fierce blow was effective, and she was overjoyed. She continued to work hard. Without waiting for Victoria to get up from the ground, she rushed to Victoria again. Victoria was not reconciled, but she had no choice. The explosive power before her death made her regain her fighting spirit. At least, even if she died, she did not intend to let go of Li Lixin. So, the moment Li Lixin rushed to Victoria's side, Victoria, who was lying on the ground and groaning, suddenly got up. She quickly raised her head and hit Li Lixin's crotch with force. This time, she used all of Victoria's strength, so Li Lixin's body was directly pushed up, and then she fell on the ring. Li Lixin screamed, and her tears were about to come out. She did not expect that Victoria, who was about to die, could still use such a sinister move. She used her head to hit her little sister. Li Lixin clutched her crotch in pain. She felt that her lower body was about to be crushed by Victoria's head. Victoria saw that her attack was successful, and she did not care about the pain in her body. She quickly rushed to Li Lixin's side and punched Li Lixin's crotch fiercely again. Although this move was a bit sinister, Victoria usually disdained to use it, but at this moment, she had no other choice. With the idea of dragging someone down with her when she was about to die, Victoria was almost crazy. Victoria's fighting style shocked all the investors on the stage. Even Bobby thought that Victoria was finished, and there would be no turning point. He regretted not listening to Yang Ming's words to withdraw Victoria. At least, he would not lose face. But now, Victoria suddenly reversed the situation and beat Li Lixin crazily. Although the moves were a bit wretched, this kind of battle arena did not stipulate any rules, so it was entirely up to the players to decide how to fight. At this moment, the most angry person was Li Ziqing. He originally thought that Li Lexin had already won, but he did not expect this unexpected event to happen. Seeing his distant niece in pain in the ring, Li Ziqing was so angry that he could not help but want to curse. Isn't this too much of a bully? Is there anyone who fights like this? However, Li Ziqing was unhappy in his heart, but he could not say anything. If a man beat Li Lexin like this, it was really a bit immoral, but the other party was also a woman. This made Li Ziqing suffer in silence. He could not say anything. Of course, Li Lexin would not be stupid enough to let Victoria continue to beat her like this. If this continued, she would be crippled by her. Therefore, Li Lexin endured the pain in her lower body and pounced on Victoria. The two people's bodies were entangled together. Victoria was almost crazy, and Li Lexin was almost crazy from Victoria's beating. So, the two people couldn't wait to strangle each other. They directly entangled and rolled in the ring. The investors in the audience were dumbfounded again. What kind of fighting style is this? Why do I feel like it's a street fight? In fact, both of them did not give each other a chance. Time is up. The referee raised the small flag in his hand. The two people did not have a winner, and the result was a draw. However, this was already the best result that Bobby could accept. At least he did not lose. Li Ziqing, on the other hand, was somewhat dejected. He was actually defeated by Victoria in the end. Moreover, he used such a wretched method. This sounded simply too funny. However, the result was the result. Li Ziqing had to accept it. Moreover, he had also heard of Bobby's name. He knew how powerful Bobby was in Country X, so even if Li Ziqing was unbalanced, he did not dare to say anything. Li Lexin stood up helplessly, but Victoria fell on the stage. She had completed her task. At least, she did not lose, right? Several staff members began to clean up the mess in the ring. They put Victoria on a stretcher, and then one of the doctor-like staff members hurriedly ran to Bobby and whispered to him, "Sir, your boxer doesn't seem to be able to do it. How do you deal with it?" Bobby naturally saw Victoria's current situation. He frowned and asked, "Can she be cured?" "If it is to save her life, it may be possible, but if you want to restore her martial arts, I am afraid it is impossible." The doctor said plainly, "She has many fractures and internal bleeding, find a place to bury it." Bobby listened to the doctor's words, waved his hand, and said blankly. Chapter 1195. Okay, sir. The doctor nodded. He had seen too much of this kind of thing, and he had become accustomed to it. Although this kind of indifference to life was very uncomfortable, over time, he would get used to it. Wait. Yang Ming waved his hand and frowned. Give her the best treatment. Although the doctor had not seen Yang Ming, he was not an ordinary person by looking at the position where he was sitting. Next to him were General Kars and Li Chang. This person's identity was definitely not low, so the doctor could not ignore Yang Ming's suggestion. However, he looked at Bobby with some embarrassment. He could not offend either of these two people, so the doctor did not know who to listen to. "I want you to treat her. Didn't you hear it?" General Kars saw that the doctor was actually indifferent to Yang Ming's words, and he was a little angry. He had been paying attention to Yang Ming's movements, but he had not spoken. Now, when it was time for him to speak, he immediately spoke. Yes. The doctor knew the identity of General Kars. Although Bobby was also very powerful, he could only choose to obey General Kars' orders compared to General Kars. Otherwise, he really did not want to continue to mingle in Country X. "Mr. Bobby, do you mind if I do this?" Yang Ming glanced at Bobby and asked faintly. Although Yang Ming was not very interested in Bobby's cold-bloodedness, Yang Ming could also understand. From their point of view, Victoria was just a slave, a tool. Their lives would not be put in Bobby's eyes at all. Of course, I don't mind. Bobby had long noticed that Yang Ming's identity was unusual. Now that General Kars had spoken, Bobby was more certain of this. Therefore, he naturally would not refuse Yang Ming's request, but Bobby felt a little strange. What was the use of Yang Ming for this disabled Victoria? However, sir, you also heard it. She is already disabled. Even if she is cured, she can't fight anymore. Sell her to me, okay? Yang Ming did not answer Bobby's words but asked faintly. Oh. Bobby was stunned and immediately realized that he might have asked too many questions which made Yang Ming unhappy. He hurriedly said, "What are you selling? Since you like it, I'll give it to you." Bobby was not stupid. Would he dare to take Yang Ming's money? Now, he couldn't even send a gift to Yang Ming. Now that Yang Ming asked for a disabled slave, Bobby naturally had no reason to refuse. As for what Yang Ming wanted Victoria to do, that was Yang Ming's business. Bobby thought, perhaps, the aesthetic view of Asians is different from that of Westerners. Yang Ming may be interested in this woman, Victoria. Of course, he was only thinking about it. He did not dare to say it out loud. Thank you. Yang Ming nodded and said lightly, "How about this, as a reward, the management rights of the last gold mine will all belong to you." Ah. Bobby was surprised and immediately said, "Thank you, sir, but will Li Ziqing agree?" Through reading the information, Bobby already knew that the person Li Ziqing represented was Li Ziqing. According to the regulations, Li Ziqing had half of the management rights of the gold mine. Him. Yang Ming shrugged and did not say anything. Bobby was somewhat inexplicable. He didn't know what Yang Ming meant. "Sir, what do you mean?" "It is not good for you to know too much." General Kars frowned and glanced at Bobby. Then he said, "If Li Ziqing disappears in a few days, don't be too surprised." Bobby's heart was shocked. He didn't know how Li Ziqing offended these powerful people in Country X, but he didn't dare to ask. He said in fear and trepidation, "Sorry, I am too curious." "It's nothing." Yang Ming waved his hand. He didn't want to scare Bobby. The next few games were the kind of small games. There was nothing to watch. Compared to the intensity of Li Ziqing and Victoria, everyone naturally lacked interest. After the bidding, Yang Ming didn't even look back. He took Huang Leilei's hand and went straight to the lounge with General Kars and Li Chang. Of course, this lounge belonged to the interior. The investors outside were not allowed to enter. Li Ziqing looked at Yang Ming's back, and there was some inexplicable panic in his heart. If Yang Ming really stood in front of him and insulted him or looked for trouble at this auction, Li Ziqing would feel that it was normal. However, Yang Ming didn't do anything. He didn't even look at him. This really made Li Ziqing feel panic in his heart. Does Yang Ming, that kid, look bad? Even Huang Leilei, that girl, has become arrogant. Li Tianyu looked at Yang Ming's back and scolded in his heart. "Tianyu, don't talk nonsense here." Li Tianjia glanced at Li Tianyu and lowered his voice. "Be careful that the walls have ears in other people's territory." "What are you afraid of?" Li Tianyu was a little upset with Li Tianjia's reprimand. "What can he do to us?" "What do you think? In other people's territory, can't they do whatever they want?" Li Tianjia snorted. "Okay, you too. Don't argue." Li Ziqing interrupted the quarrel between Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu. "What time is it? Why are you still arguing?" Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu saw that their father was angry, and they quickly closed their mouths. Now, Young Ming is looking for trouble with us. That is normal. Li Ziqing sighed. I'm just afraid that he won't look for trouble with us. Father, what do you mean? Li Tianjia did not understand Li Ziqing's meaning. If you are Yang Ming, we have done so many things, and we even want to steal his woman. Do you think he will let it go? Li Ziqing asked. Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu both shook their heads at the same time. Yes, the Li family harmed the Huang family so badly. It would be strange if Yang Ming did not retaliate. But now, Yang Ming's reaction has been very calm. Li Ziqing pointed to the restroom and said, "Calm, isn't that good?" Li Tianyu was somewhat puzzled. Isn't it better if he doesn't look for trouble with us? Li Ziqing waved his hand. The unknown horror is the most terrible. I don't know when Yang Ming will retaliate against us. This kind of feeling is simply like a year. Father, maybe Yang Ming is thinking about the overall situation. Seeing that we are investors, he might really give up looking for trouble with us. Li Tianjia analyzed in a positive direction. For the overall situation. Li Ziqing smiled with some self-deprecation. Are we also investors? We are indeed here to invest. Li Tianjia nodded and said. You also saw that there is no shortage of investors here. There is no need to worry about not being able to contract out the mines. There are many people waiting in line. If we don't want it, someone will want it immediately. Li Ziqing said, so, do you think Yang Ming will care about us? It doesn't matter if we have one more or one less. The iron ore mine and half a gold mine in our hands can be contracted to others in the blink of an eye. Li Ziqing's words made Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu, who were happy to get half a gold mine and an iron ore mine, feel heavy again. Li Ziqing's analysis was not wrong. Yang Ming would not care about the Li family at all. The three people with heavy hearts returned to the guest house in a panic and locked themselves in the room. They were not in the mood to do other things. They were not as happy as other investors who got the mines. Li Lixin's injury was not light, but there was no way to find a doctor for this kind of injury. Li Lixin was very depressed as she lay in the room, rubbing her little sister with her hand. Isn't this Victoria too ruthless? They are all women, yet she still went to this place. Li Ziqing comforted Li Lixin, but he also understood that he really couldn't care about Li Lixin's injury. He had to comfort Li Lixin and increase her reward so that she could recuperate in peace. Li Lixin thought that Victoria was definitely going to die, so Li Lixin's mood could be a little more refreshed. But when she saw Victoria being carried away by the medical staff instead of being thrown away like the other slaves who fell in the ring, Li Lixin's mood became bad again. In her view, Victoria was a slave no matter what. Even if she was rescued, it was hard to say if she could stand up like a normal person, let alone fight in the ring. However, someone went to rescue Victoria. Li Lixin felt that this was her greatest shame. There was no precedent for someone who insulted and bullied her to continue to live in this world. In Li Lixin's heart, she also secretly planted the seed of hatred, and was ready to kill Victoria. However, not now. Now she had to recuperate. When the injury was healed, there would be plenty of opportunities, right? Yang Ming played with the remote control in his hand. This remote control was sent by Bobby, who said that it could detonate a time bomb in Victoria's body. Yang Ming did not expect that there was such a mechanism in Victoria's body. Li Chang and General Kars were a little puzzled. Why was Yang Ming interested in a female slave? However, the two of them could not ask. Huang Lele did not ask, so what should they ask? Therefore, for the things that Yang Ming told them, they could only do it step by step. After doing it, they accompanied Yang Ming silently. Mr. Yang, the thing is out. General Kars took a small part in a sealed bag from one of his men and handed it to Yang Ming. Is this the thing? Yang Ming took the sealed bag and looked at the things in the bag with interest. This was a very small and precise instrument. As for whether it was a bomb, he did not know. Chapter 1196. This was taken out by the doctor who General Kars instructed to perform the operation on Victoria by Yang Ming. When Bobby told this secret to Yang Ming asked someone to hand it over to the doctor who performed the operation on Victoria. Yang Ming's approach made Bobby very surprised. He thought that Yang Ming was simply crazy. Wouldn't he lose control of Victoria by doing this? If Victoria lost the human bomb, wouldn't she become a runaway wild horse? How could Yang Ming control her? In fact, only Yang Ming himself understood that controlling a person like this was not the best way. To let Victoria do things for him sincerely, only he respected her first. Of course, he also had to be stronger than her in other aspects, such as skills, so that he could subdue Victoria. Of course, Bobby didn't know that Yang Ming was also an assassin, so he would have such an expression. However, Yang Ming couldn't tell Bobby about his own matters. Therefore, Bobby could only understand that Yang Ming really liked Victoria, so he used this method to please Victoria and win her heart. "Don't worry, Mr. Yang. She is a virgin," Bobby said flatteringly. He had already known the name of Yang Ming from General Kars, and he also knew the high status of Yang Ming. Because when he asked General Kars about the identity of Yang Ming, General Kars just pointed to the sky and said, "Whether I can sit in this position now depends on Mr. Yang's words." This made Bobby inexplicably surprised. He didn't dare to ask further. He was afraid that the more he knew, the faster he would die. Therefore, Bobby quickly told Yang Ming about the remote-controlled bomb on Victoria. Now, when he saw that Yang Ming was preparing to remove the bomb in Victoria's body, Bobby could only understand the above idea. Although he also admitted that Victoria was very beautiful, no matter how beautiful she was still a slave. The matter of Victoria being a virgin was naturally told to him by the previous Egyptian. It was not that Bobby didn't have any bad thoughts about Victoria, but he felt that it was impossible for his aristocratic identity to have sex with a slave. Secondly, Victoria was such a scary woman. Who dared to sleep with her? Being killed by her in the middle of the night, Bobby was a little creepy when he thought about it. Yang Ming listened to Bobby's words and couldn't help but be a little amused. Virgin. Does this guy really think that I have other intentions when I ask for Victoria from him? I know. Yang Ming nodded. Although Yang Ming had little to do with Victoria being a virgin, Yang Ming also hoped that the bodyguard for Chen Mengyan was a clean woman, not a person who had a messy private life. Mr. Yang, I suggest it's just a personal suggestion. You shouldn't tell Victoria that the chip in her body has been taken out. Bobby hesitated and advised, it's best to talk about this after you establish a relationship with her. Victoria is really scary. Although Yang Ming felt that Bobby was a little talkative, Bobby really had good intentions, so Yang Ming couldn't blame Bobby. He just smiled and said, "Thank you for your advice. I will pay attention to it." Bobby also saw that although Yang Ming said it with a smile, his words were perfunctory, so he couldn't say anything more. Yang Ming sat on the sofa in the lounge and carefully observed the delicate instrument that was taken out of Victoria's chest. The workmanship of the instrument was very good. It was made of titanium metal. This metal had a good affinity with the human body. It would not rust, and it would not be rejected. It would not have the slightest adverse reaction when placed in the human body. On the top of the instrument, there was also a line of production date and a large KE logo, which might be the manufacturer's trademark or something else. However, Yang Ming's weakness now was that there were no people around him who were engaged in scientific and technological research. He couldn't hand this thing over to the people around him for careful study. If he gave it to other third-party institutions to study, Yang Ming was really worried. It was not easy to create a technological empire. Yang Ming was not a reborn person in the web novel, so he was doomed to be unable to embark on the path of a technological empire. Although Yang Ming's current accumulation of assets was very fast, he still couldn't get involved in the most profitable IT industry, and it was impossible to get involved. He knew himself well enough to know the consequences of forcefully breaking into this industry. Without a strong research and development team and without talents in this area, it was obviously unrealistic to do high-tech. Therefore, Yang Ming could only put the chip in his hand aside. How is Victoria? Yang Ming glanced at the doctor standing next to General Kars and asked. The doctor looked at General Kars and looked at Yang Ming. There was some embarrassment in his eyes. What's wrong? Yang Ming frowned. He was very dissatisfied with the attitude of General Kars. Mr. Yang asked you a question. Just answer it. Why are you looking at me? General Kars was shocked. He was angered by the doctor's action. Isn't this obviously to make Yang Ming suspect him? Yang Ming was the owner of this land. If these people acted according to General Kars' expression, what would Yang Ming think? It was estimated that Yang Ming would not be far from killing him. No. The doctor was also shocked. He shook his head quickly and said hesitantly, Mr. Yang, General Kars, this is the case. Victoria's situation is not very good. The surgery is done, but her injury is too serious. She is now in a coma. It is still unknown whether she can wake up. Oh. Yang Ming listened to the doctor's words and nodded faintly. Yang Ming asked for Victoria from Bobby's hands and let the doctor treat her. Naturally, it was not that Yang Ming liked Victoria. Although Victoria's appearance was not bad, and the wildness of her body was also very charming, there were many charming women. Yang Ming was not a stud horse. It was impossible for him to fall in love with every one of them. The real reason why Yang Ming kept Victoria was because he liked her kung fu. Since Lin Jiyun, Zhou Jiajia, and Sun Jia had accidents and were attacked one after another, Yang Ming felt that the safety of these girls was the top priority. He must send them an extraordinary bodyguard to protect their personal safety. Otherwise, Yang Ming would not be at ease when he was doing things outside. Although Yang Ming had a lot of skilled people under his command, these people were all men. It was very inconvenient to let men accompany a few girls. Chen Mengyan and others would not agree, so this matter was temporarily put aside. Therefore, Yang Ming would let Li Chang adopt some orphans left by the war on the African side and select the girls to train. However, this cycle was too long. It would take at least 2 or 3 years. Yang Ming could not wait for such a long time. He still had to find another way to solve the current urgent situation. In fact, Wang Xiaoyan was the best candidate, but Yang Ming couldn't let her protect Chen Mengyan and the others. Not to mention whether Wang Xiaoyan was willing to be a bodyguard for Yang Ming's other women, Chen Mengyan's level was not so easy to pass. If the gang was exposed, it would be even worse. Victoria, who he met by chance, was a good candidate. Her skill and reaction were excellent, and she was born as a slave, so it was easier to control her. Of course, Yang Ming did not agree with what the doctor said. Even if Victoria recovered from her injury, she might lose her kung fu. They just looked at it with common sense, and they did not have a deep understanding of Victoria. It could be said that Victoria's skill was not based on real kung fu. She was not like some professional players who completely relied on the strength of their body to fight. She relied on skill and skills. It could be said that Victoria and Wang Xiaoyan were very similar. They were not good at long-lasting fights. They only relied on skills to win and achieve the purpose of defeating the enemy in one move. Although Yang Ming was also like this, after all, he was born as a gangster. He also had his own strength, but now it was more skillful. The brute force fighting method was not very clever. Therefore, once Victoria woke up, as long as she did some routine recovery training, she could still have extraordinary skills. People's reaction ability and skills could not be forgotten and changed. As long as these were still there, even if Victoria's strength was not as good as before, it did not matter. At most, her strength would be worse than before, but it would not be too bad. Yang Ming also went through training, and he knew the assassin's own matters. Yang Ming was a halfway learner. Although Fang Tian said that he was talented, he did not start training from childhood. Even so, Yang Ming was able to master a superb killing technique in a short period of time. This also showed the importance of technique, while strength was auxiliary and secondary. "Is she still in a coma?" asked Yang Ming. "Yes, Mr. Yang," the doctor said respectfully. "How big is the chance of waking up?" asked Yang Ming. "I can't say." The doctor sighed and said, "This can only depend on her own desire to survive. If her desire to survive is strong, she may be able to wake up, but if her desire to survive is not strong, it is likely that she will not be able to survive tonight, so tonight is a crucial night." Yang Ming nodded after listening and asked, "Yes, you can say that. If she doesn't wake up tonight, then the hope of waking up is not too big." The doctor said truthfully, "The moment the patient doesn't wake up, she won't be out of danger." Yang Ming hesitated and said, "Let's go. Let's go see her together." "Oh, can we see her now?" Chapter 1197. "Yes." The doctor nodded and said, "Mr. Yang, please come this way." Yang Ming stood up and walked out of the lounge with the doctor. General Kars and Li Chang also followed behind Yang Ming. Huang Lele naturally went with Yang Ming. Wherever Yang Ming went, she would follow. Coming out of the lounge, they went straight out of the venue and got on a military ambulance parked at the entrance of the venue. General Kars and Li Chang both had special cars, but when they saw Yang Ming get on the ambulance, they naturally followed and squeezed into the ambulance. The doctor quickly said a few words to the driver in front of the car. The driver's face immediately showed an expression of fear and trepidation. He was just an ordinary ambulance driver. He never thought that one day he would be the driver of Li Chang and General Kars, and there was another big shot sitting in the car. This made the driver a little excited and didn't know what to do. General Kars and Li Chang didn't understand why Yang Ming was so interested in Victoria, but Huang Lele never asked about Yang Ming's matters. She obediently accompanied Yang Ming. Whatever Yang Ming did, she just agreed. The ambulance drove to Shoujia City Hospital, which was the only hospital in the city. It was under military control. Now, Li Chang had taken over the management. Although it was also open to the people of Country X, people could be seen standing guard on both sides of the hospital door. When the ambulance drove in, it was also checked by the guard. General Kars and Captain Li Chang are in the car. The driver kindly reminded the two guards who came to check. He was also afraid that General Kars and Li Chang would be disturbed, especially when there was a big shot inside. The guard glanced at the driver suspiciously and looked at his ambulance. Apparently, he didn't believe the driver's words. "General Kars and Captain Li Chang can sit in your car. Get out of the car and open the trunk. I think you are very suspicious." "Wait." The driver was shocked and quickly stopped him. "Why? Are you scared?" The guard glared and increasingly felt that the driver was suspicious. "Take out your work ID and let me see." "Okay." The driver quickly took out his ID and handed it to the guard. The guard carefully examined it and found that there was no problem with the ID, but this did not mean that there was no problem with the guard. Because now the guard's attitude was very suspicious, he actually said that General Kars and Captain Lee Chong were sitting in the car. How could General Kars and Captain Lee Chong sit in this kind of car? They all had their own cars, so the guard obviously did not believe what the driver said. Seeing that he did not respond, he walked to the back of the car and prepared to open the rear door of the car. Because the ambulance was fully enclosed, the people inside couldn't see the situation outside, but the car suddenly stopped. General Kars waited for a long time, but he didn't see the car start again. He faintly heard the quarrel outside the car, so he quickly pushed open the door of the rear compartment, but he saw a hospital guard standing under the car and reaching out to him. "What are you going to do?" General Kars was stunned and asked randomly. The guard stretched out his hands and was about to open the door himself, but he saw that the door opened by itself. It was General Kars who opened the door. The guard was shocked and quickly stood up. He gave a military salute and said, reporting to General Kars, "I am performing a routine inspection. I don't know that the person in the car is you." When General Kars heard that the guard was performing a routine inspection, he nodded and was not angry. He waved his hand and said, "You did a good job. However, I have something important to do. Let the driver get in the car quickly." "Yes," said the guard quickly. The driver glanced at the guard with some pride. He thought, "Didn't you not believe that General Kars is in the car? What about this time? Do you believe it now? Let's see if you still dare to look down on people." Of course, this was just a small episode. It did not affect Yang Ming's mood. When he learned about the incident, he just smiled faintly. His thoughts were more on Victoria. After all, it was indeed not easy to find such a suitable candidate. Yang Ming also hoped that Victoria could overcome the difficulties and wake up. But all of this was not something that Yang Ming could decide. Yang Ming had obtained the golden finger that God gave him, which was already much stronger than others. But he still couldn't fight against fate. Some things could not be resisted, and they could not be changed by people's will. For example, whether Victoria could wake up or not, he could only listen to God's arrangement. Yang Ming followed the doctor to the intensive care unit and saw Victoria lying on the bed. Victoria's blood-stained face had been wiped clean, revealing a clean face, but there was no color. She looked very pale and haggard. Yang Ming sighed slightly, looked at the pile of numbers on the instrument, and then said, "How is the situation now?" "Her breathing is very stable. It is a relatively good sign." The doctor looked at the numbers on the instrument and said, "In fact, Victoria's breathing was also very stable before. Whether she could wake up or not was not determined by her breathing." But Yang Ming listened to the doctor's words and relaxed a lot. He nodded and said, "If there is news, call me immediately. Whether it is good news or bad news." Yang Ming naturally knew that everything had two sides. It was impossible to only report the good news and not the bad news. Perhaps he got good news. Perhaps Victoria would leave this world forever. "Okay, Mr. Yang." The doctor quickly agreed. "Let's go." Yang Ming didn't know why he came to see Victoria. Perhaps Yang Ming also knew that Victoria might be approaching the end of her life, so he came this time. Yang Ming didn't expect that he could help her. He just felt that her life experience was a bit pitiful. As an assassin, Wang Xiaoyan and I are hundreds of times stronger than her. My skill is not weaker than Wang Xiaoyan's, but my life is very different. For Victoria, who is in the prime of her youth, is this unfair? I hope she can wake up. As long as she wakes up, Yang Ming can give her another life and a new way of living. Let her find herself and the long-lost dignity. However, whether all this can become a reality still depends on herself, because fate is only in her own hands. Yang Ming turned around and walked to the door of the ward. He walked halfway and returned. He put the remote control in his hand next to Victoria's pillow and said, "I have returned the remote control to you. Whether you can hold on to it or not depends on yourself in the future. Should I wake up, or should I continue sleeping and seize my chance?" After that, Young Ming patted Victoria's hand and turned around again. This time, Young Ming left the ward without looking back. General Kars, Li Chang, and Huang Lele also followed Yang Ming out of the hospital ward. After Li Ziqing returned to the guest house, his heart became more and more panicked. He always felt a sense of uneasiness, which made him very uncomfortable. "Father, what's wrong with you?" Li Tianjia also saw that Li Ziqing's mood was not right. "Yang Ming still has no attitude, which makes me very uneasy," Li Ziqing said bitterly. "Now this feeling is really a bit worse than death." "Father, how can you think like this?" Li Tianjia was shocked. "Father, there will always be a way. There will always be a solution. You don't have to worry about this. We have now obtained the right to operate the iron ore mine and half of the gold mine. This is something worth celebrating. Don't mention this." Li Ziqing waved his hand. "What is there to be happy about? Whether we can continue to stand firm here is a problem. If Yang Ming wants to deal with us, it is just a matter of a word, yes." "I thought of it." Li Tianyu on the side suddenly interjected. "What did you think of?" Li Tianjia was a little dissatisfied that his younger brother interrupted his father's words. He glared at him and asked. "Previously, we took the gold mine from the Huang family's hands, which almost ruined their family. Now, we also spent money to invest in the iron ore mine and gold mine. Do you think that when the time comes, Yang Ming will also do the same thing?" Li Tianyu said with some panic. "Will he also take our iron ore mine and gold mine?" And Li Ziqing was stunned after hearing it. He suddenly felt that Li Tianyu's words were very reasonable. "Tianyu, your analysis is very good. This is called giving others a taste of their own medicine. When you say this, it is really possible." Li Tianjia did not care about arguing with Li Tianyu at this time because what Li Tianyu said was indeed reasonable. "Tianyu, what you said is really reasonable. No wonder Yang Ming has not made a move. He may really think so. Let us first immerse ourselves in the joy of the successful bid. After a while, we have all stabilized. The money and equipment for mining have also been invested. At that time, he will directly take back our management rights. Then we can only cry. Tianyu, your mind is quite flexible." These words reminded me. Li Ziqing nodded heavily. "It seems that we can't wait for Yang Ming to retaliate. We should do something." "Do something? What can we do?" Li Tianjia asked, baffled. "Transfer the mine. After we get the money, we quickly leave this place. Once we return to Singapore, Yang Ming's hands can't reach us. What can he do to us?" said Li Ziqing. Li Ziqing said. "This is a good way, but in this way, aren't we bidding for nothing?" Li Tianyu also felt that his father's method was feasible. However, when he thought of withdrawing the investment here, he had no industry that could compete with Li Tianjia, so his heart was a little uncomfortable. Chapter 1198. Bidding for nothing. Compared with going bankrupt, this is already a very good result. Li Ziqing said coldly, "At that time, if they take back our mines, just like when General Kars took back the Huang family's gold mine, we won't even have time to cry. Yeah, losing money is still a small matter. Who knows how Yang Ming will mess with us?" Li Tianjia also followed Li Ziqing. Although he also felt that it was a pity to withdraw his investment at present, relatively speaking, he did not want the family's overseas investment to be too large and let Li Tianyu's status surpass his own. Although Li Tianyu knew that Li Tianjia was more or less targeting him, it was undeniable that what Li Tianjia said was very reasonable, so he had to accept this reality. Well, let's consider it as a waste of time. It can't be said that it is a waste of effort. Li Ziqing waved his hand. After all, our 2 mines were also obtained through bidding. It is not easy to get them. Naturally, it is impossible to sell them at the original price. There are also labor costs. For example, the half-gold mine that we subsequently bid for. If we sell it to Mr. Bobby will definitely not only spend the money we bid for. He will give us the corresponding reward. That is also true. Li Tianyu nodded and said, then let's contact Mr. Bobby first. Find me his phone number. I want to ask him to come and talk to him personally. Li Ziqing instructed Li Tianjia. Although the guest house where they lived was specially set up for them investors, a figure like Bobby, although he had a room in this guest house, would not live here. He still had a villa nearby. Li Tianyu and Li Tianjia quickly began to look for Bobby's contact information on the investor contact list issued by the venue. People like Bobby would naturally be at the top of the list, so they quickly found his phone number. Since Li Ziqing had made a decision, he did not want to delay time and quickly dialed Bobby's phone number. Hello. Hello, is this Mr. Bobby? Li Ziqing's voice sounded very respectful. Oh, yes, I am Bobby. Who is this? Bobby picked up the phone and asked politely. Now, although his status in Country X was already very high, there were people who were higher than him, such as Yang Ming, Li Chang, and General Kars. I am Li Ziqing, the owner of the other half of that gold mine, he. Li Ziqing said. Oh, it turned out to be Mr. Li. What's the matter? Bobby heard that it was Li Ziqing, and it was a little strange. Although the authority of the mine had been determined, it would take some time to talk about cooperation. Wasn't Li Ziqing a little too impatient? This is the case. I don't know if Mr. Bobby is free. I want to talk to you, said Li Ziqing. Oh, talk. Well, then let's meet in a while. After I finish my dinner, I will meet you in my room at the guest house. Bobby said, oh, do you know my room number? Yes, it's recorded in the contact list. As Li Ziqing spoke, he flipped open the roster and said, it's on the 3rd floor, Presidential Suite 3A1, right? Yes, I'll see you later. 7:00 in the evening, Bobby said. Okay, I will be there on time, said Li Ziqing quickly. Hanging up the phone, Li Ziqing breathed a sigh of relief. In any case, Bobby agreed to meet with him, which was a good thing. Li Ziqing believed that as long as the 2 sides met, and his price was not so outrageous, Bobby would definitely accept it. After all, if 2 companies operated a gold mine at the same time, there would be many inconveniences. It was difficult to reach a consensus on mining opinions. It was inevitable that there would be disputes. In this way, no one would be happy. Therefore, as long as he showed the intention to transfer, he believed that Bobby would be happy to take over the gold mine. How is it? Father, asked Li Tianjia. Fortunately, Bobby agreed to meet with me. Li Ziqing said, at 7:00, in his presidential suite in the guest house. At 7:00 in the evening, Li Ziqing came to the presidential suite 3A1 on the 3rd floor of the guest house on time. He knocked on the door, and Bobby's voice came from inside. Please come in. Obviously, Bobby had arrived a little earlier, which made Li Ziqing very happy. This showed that Bobby had given him enough sincerity. Li Ziqing pushed open the door of the room and walked in. This presidential suite was much better than the room he lived in. His was just an ordinary 3-person room, which was far less luxurious than Bobby's room. Even if it was such a luxurious room, Bobby did not live in it. He still lived in the villa outside. This made Li Ziqing feel a little emotional. Comparing people is really annoying. Mr. Bobby, hello. Li Ziqing smiled and greeted Bobby. At this moment, Bobby was sitting on the sofa drinking coffee and watching TV. When he saw Li Ziqing, he did not get up. He just nodded to him. Mr. Li, you are here. Yeah, Mr. Bobby, how are you? Are you okay? Li Ziqing did not understand the speaking habits of Westerners, so it was a bit awkward to talk about them. I'm fine, Mr. Li. Why are you in such a hurry to ask me out? What's the matter? Asked Bobby. This is the case. Don't we have the same gold mine? Said Li Ziqing. Oh, I understand. You are here to talk to me about cooperation, right? Asked Bobby. Oh, no, but yes, it is indeed a matter of cooperation. Li Ziqing didn't know how to answer Bobby's question, so he simply said straightforwardly, Mr. Bobby, I think it is not a pleasant thing for two people to operate a gold mine together. There will always be times when there are differences of opinion. Yes, I think so too. Bobby nodded. You came to me. Don't tell me you want me to transfer the gold mine to you. No. Li Ziqing quickly waved his hand. Of course not. I mean, I can transfer my half of the gold mine to you. Oh. Bobby was stunned. He looked up with interest and looked at Li Ziqing. You mean, you want to buy me half of the gold mine in your hands? Yes. Li Ziqing nodded. To be honest, I'm not very interested. Bobby said something that made Li Ziqing very discouraged. In fact, if it were any other time, Bobby would be very interested in Li Ziqing's proposal, but now, because the other party was Li Ziqing, Bobby had no interest in dealing with him. General Kars and Yang Ming seemed to have a problem with this Li Ziqing, and they wanted to take the opportunity to fix him. What's more, Yang Ming had promised him that he would hand over the gold mine management rights in Li Ziqing's hands to him, so Bobby had no need to buy the half of the gold mine from Li Ziqing. It was a waste to spend a lot of money. Ah. Li Ziqing widened his eyes and looked at Bobby incredulously. You are not interested. This is the case. Bobby nodded affirmatively. You don't think that I want to take the opportunity to blackmail you. Li Ziqing immediately guessed that maybe Bobby didn't want him to earn too much, so he played hard to get, so he said, don't worry. The price will not be too expensive. It will definitely be very reasonable. You know, I am not a greedy person. No. Bobby waved his hand. It's not for this reason. I really don't want to buy the management rights in your hands. It's true. Even if you sell it to me at the original price, I won't take it. What? You don't want it even if I sell it at the original price? Li Ziqing seemed to not believe what Bobby said. No way. Mr. Bobby, are you kidding? I'm not kidding. Bobby shook his head. I'm telling the truth. I really don't want to buy the management rights in your hands. This. Li Ziqing was really dumbfounded at the moment. He felt that his brain was short-circuited. This was a situation that he didn't expect at all. He didn't expect that Bobby would say this. Originally, he thought that as long as he spoke, Bobby would happily buy the management rights in his hands. Now, Bobby actually said that he wouldn't want it even if he sold it at the original price. This was too surprising. Do you want me to sell it to you at a loss? Yang Ming nodded. Loss, As Bobby spoke until here, he paused and said, even if you lose money, I won't take it. Ugh. Li Ziqing really didn't know what to say. The development of the matter had completely exceeded Li Ziqing's expectations. It was not what he could expect at all. If Mr. Li is talking about this, I don't think we need to talk about it. Bobby said with a smile. Wait, Mr. Bobby, I don't understand. Since you are not interested, why did you bid for this gold mine in the first place? Moreover, for this gold mine, you also sacrificed one of your fighters. This seems to be somewhat inexplicable, right? Li Ziqing asked unwillingly, if I sell the management rights at the original price, you are now bidding for this gold mine at the same price. What's the difference? I was just bidding for fun. What's wrong with that? Bobby laughed. Well, then I have nothing to say. Li Ziqing was very disappointed. Mr. Bobby, sorry to bother you. I will go first. Hee, goodbye. Bobby still had a polite attitude, but he refused to let people go. Li Ziqing saw that Bobby had already asked him to leave, so he stood up helplessly and walked out of Bobby's room. Bobby looked at Li Ziqing's back, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. This old guy seems to have noticed the dissatisfaction of General Kars and Yang Ming. Is he ready to get rid of the industry in his hands and escape? How can I cooperate with him? I have to create some trouble for him. Chapter 1199. Bobby didn't think that Li Ziqing would give up after being rejected by him. Since Li Ziqing had made up his mind to get rid of the industry in his hands and evacuate here, then he would still sell the mineral management rights in his hands to others. Since Bobby already knew the attitude of Yang Ming and General Kars, then Bobby couldn't sit idly by. He must do something to create some trouble for Li Ziqing so that he couldn't get rid of the industry in his hands and trapped him here. Thinking of this, Bobby smiled, picked up the phone in the room, and dialed an old friend's phone number according to the room's internal line number on the roster. Hey, is this Mike? I am Bobby. Hey, Mr. Bobby, why did you call me? Mike and Bobby had a good relationship. The two people's previous minds were not far away, so Mike and Bobby were very familiar with each other. Although Mike's industry was not as big as Bobby's, this did not affect their friendship. Old man, I am in the guest house. Are you free? Let's have a drink together. Bobby invited Mike. Okay, no problem, buddy. Mike naturally agreed to Bobby's invitation very readily. Hanging up the phone, Bobby smiled slightly. Mike was a famous old loudspeaker. As long as he knew something, everyone around him would know it the next day. Therefore, as long as Bobby told Mike about Li Ziqing's matter, he believed that Mike would soon tell the others. It didn't take long for there to be a knock on the door of the room. Bobby immediately said, "Please come in." "Hey, old man, hello." Mike pushed the door and walked in. "Today, you have a rich battle result." "It's okay." Bobby said, "Your battle result is also good." "Same here." Mike smiled. "I am not as rich as you, but the last gold mine is quite regrettable. Someone else took half of the management rights." "It's not a pity, hee. Bobby laughed. "Come on, old man." Mike stared at him and said, "Do you know that it's not a good thing for two people to manage the same mine together? When the time comes, there will definitely be differences of opinion. Haven't you thought about buying the management rights from him?" Li Ziqing did come to me, and he just came, but I refused him." Bobby said with a smile. "Aw. Rejected him?" Mike was stunned. He looked at Bobby inexplicably. "No way. Are you kidding me? You actually rejected it? This is such a good opportunity." "Oh, I know. It must be because his price is too high and he wants to take the opportunity to extort you, so you refused, right?" "In fact, that's not the case." Bobby shook his head. "Li Ziqing said that he can sell it to me at the original price." "Original price? Then why did you refuse?" Mike's eyes widened. "No way, bro, did I hear wrong? Or is there something wrong with your mind?" You actually refused such a good thing. You didn't hear wrong. My mind is also very good. Bobby said, but I don't dare to take over the business in Li Ziqing's hands. Don't dare to take over. Mike looked at Bobby suspiciously. What do you mean by don't dare to take over? Could it be that there's something else going on? Secret. Oh, this is too confidential. Old man, it's not that I don't want to tell you, but it's not good for you to know too much. Bobby said, I can only say that don't get too close to Li Ziqing, or you will be unlucky. I can't afford to offend people who want to touch him. Ah. Is there such a thing? Mike's interest was immediately piqued. This is big news. Hey, buddy, tell me, what's the secret behind this? This secret, I can't say. Bobby waved his hand. This kind of thing can't be said casually. Old man, I can't harm you. What I said before is not a secret. It's okay for you to say it, but the latter, you know, your mouth. Ha. Yeah, that's true. Mike nodded. In this case, I still don't know. Even old man, you can't afford to offend people. I can't afford to offend them, it's good that you understand. Bobby nodded. Come, let's not talk about this. Let's drink. This Li Ziqing is really unlucky. Mike smiled. Let's not talk about it. Let's drink. As a result, that night, after Mike walked out of Bobby's room, he went into the room of several investors who were playing dice. Mike, why are you here? Do you want to play 2 games? Look at you. Did you just drink? Where have you been? A guy named Larry asked into the microphone. Hey. I just came from Bobby's room. Mike said, hey, let me tell you some amazing news. Do you know? Li Ziqing actually went to Bobby and sold him the management rights of the other half of the gold mine. What's so amazing about this? Larry said disapprovingly. If 2 people operate together, there will definitely not be any good results. It is better to sell to the other party. If I were Li Ziqing, I would do the same. That's not the amazing thing. Hey, buddy, listen to me. Mike waved his hand and continued, the amazing news is that Bobby actually refused Li Ziqing's proposal. He refused. The asking price is too high. It's normal to refuse. What's so strange about this? Larry continued. Hey, can you listen to me? Mike glared at Larry. The key problem is that Li Ziqing said that he wanted to transfer the management rights to Bobby at the original price, but Bobby didn't accept it. Oh. Really? When the people present heard Mike's words, they finally let out a cry of surprise at the same time. This was indeed too shocking. Yes, nothing could be more shocking than this news. I say, Mike, are you kidding me? This is not something to laugh about. Larry obviously didn't believe it. After all, this was such a good opportunity. Why would Bobby refuse? How is this possible? Either Mike was lying, or there was something else going on. Why would I joke? Mike waved his hand unhappily. Don't you know my character? Indeed, I like to gossip a lot, but which one of the things I say is not true? That's true. Larry nodded and thought about it. Mike really didn't seem to lie to anyone, so he said, then, is there any secret to this matter? Of course, there is a secret. Mike said with some pride, it is said that Bobby has been warned not to get too close to Li Ziqing, and not to get involved in Li Ziqing's affairs. Otherwise what? Larry asked in a hurry. Otherwise. Bobby didn't say it, but obviously, Bobby doesn't dare to deal with Li Ziqing. I don't know which powerful character has warned him to be so careful, said Mike. No way. Even Bobby is afraid. Larry was surprised. If Bobby doesn't dare to provoke someone, then who dares to provoke? That's right. It seems that I have to stay away from Li Jiqing in the future, so as not to get into trouble, said Mike. That's right, you're right. Fortunately, you told us about this. It seems that we have to stay away from Li Jiqing. Larry nodded and said sincerely. Everyone also agreed. Therefore, before the next morning, the news had already spread. The rumor that Li Jiqing had offended a powerful person had shrouded the entire guest house. Even Bobby couldn't afford to provoke someone, so they naturally couldn't afford to provoke him. Li Jiqing certainly didn't know that now no one in the entire guest house dared to deal with him. Li Jiqing returned to his room very disappointed. Father, how was it? As soon as Li Jiqing entered the room, Li Tianjia and Li Tianyu greeted him. Don't mention it. Li Jiqing waved his hand helplessly. Damn it, Bobby actually refused. He refused my request. He didn't want to buy the management rights in my hands. Bobby refused you. He doesn't want to buy the management rights in your hands. Li Tianjia was somewhat inexplicable. Why? Is it because the price you offered is too high? Too high. Li Jiqing shook his head. What is too high? I sold it to him at the original price, but he didn't want it. What? He didn't want the original price. What does he mean? Li Tianjia was anxious when he heard it. Is he sure that we don't want to work together? Does he want us to lose money and sell it to him? He doesn't want it even if we lose money. Li Jiqing said bitterly. Bobby said that he doesn't want it even if we lose money. He is not interested in this gold mine. Then don't sell it to him. Let's sell it to others. Li Tianjia said, I don't believe that I can't find other buyers except for him. That's right. I will contact others again. Li Jiqing nodded. If he wants to buy it, I won't sell it to him. It's not like we can't sell the minerals in our hands. Thinking of this, Li Jiqing's gloomy mood was better again. He planned to contact others tomorrow morning. However, what he didn't know was that in the guest house, rumors had already spread. There were all kinds of versions. They even said that Li Jiqing was a liar who tried to deceive Bobby, but he was rejected. Of course, this was just one of the versions. There were many different versions. Li Jiqing naturally didn't think of this. If he knew, he didn't know how to feel. Should he cry or laugh? Chapter 1200. Things were sometimes so wonderful. Because of Yang Ming's hint, Bobby directly rejected Li Jiqing. And because Bobby acted on his own accord, rumors started to spread due to a strange combination of circumstances. In Li Jiqing's view, although the management rights of the two mines in his hands were not particularly good, at least it was not particularly bad. The annual income of this iron mine was also good. Therefore, he had not realized that Bobby did not buy his gold mine management rights for other reasons. He thought that Bobby was pretending to be badass. Because Bobby lost the game, he deliberately put on this indifferent attitude. It must be like this. These big shots all paid more attention to their own image. Li Jiqing had humiliated him in public, so he would naturally bear a grudge in his heart. Therefore, it was not strange for him to do something that went against common sense at this moment. The phone rang sharply. The most old-fashioned phone installed in the room was still installed. There was no way. These were all problems left over from the previous war. Being backward was not something that Yang Ming could change in a short time. Although Yang Ming had money, it would take a long time to rebuild this island. First of all, it was to regulate the investors here. The original Country X was too chaotic. Everyone had their own armed forces. Wars happened from time to time. These were very unstable factors. Yang Ming must put an end to these. Therefore, the first thing that Yang Ming asked Li Chang to do was to cut off all the individual armed forces. In the entire island, no armed forces with weapons were allowed to exist, including the armed forces of these investors for self-defense. Of course, they could be allowed to retain a certain number of security personnel to maintain the order and safety of the mining area, but they must be strictly reviewed and recorded. After this rule was issued, although it caused dissatisfaction among several large investors, there was no other way. If they wanted to continue to mingle here, they could only obey and abide by the rules. Not to mention their small armed forces, even General Howden and other hostile forces of General Kar's regime, who were 10 times stronger than them, were annihilated under Li Chang's strong blow. How could they compete with his opponent? This was the first step that Yang Ming had to do. The second step was to promote vacation and tourism on a large scale. This idea came from Henry Island, where Yang Ming had been. A declining aristocrat had bought a private island that did not belong to any country, but under the influence of this declining aristocrat, it had become a vacation paradise for the rich. This declining aristocrat also used this island to get acquainted with many of the world's top nobles and re-entered the upper class. This was a story that people loved to talk about. And what Yang Ming wanted to imitate was Henry Island. Moreover, Yang Ming had the advantage. In terms of land area, Yang Ming occupied 3 to 4 times the land area of Henry Island, which meant that Yang Ming could build more entertainment facilities and apartments. However, Yang Ming's disadvantage was that the small island of Country X was located near the North African plate, and most of North Africa was under the control of the subtropical high pressure and the dry northeast trade winds. In addition, the edge of the plateau was surrounded by tall mountains, blocking the arrival of the sea water, so the climate was hot and dry. It was a tropical desert climate. There was little precipitation, and the evaporation was strong. However, Country X was not like this. Country X was an independent island surrounded by the ocean, so under the influence of the ocean climate, it was not hot. The 4 seasons were pleasant, and it was better than Henry Island. However, this required vigorous publicity because most people would think of the heat when they heard of North Africa, so Yang Ming must let everyone recognize this. Country X was not very hot. Of course, with the support and publicity of old Buffon, the top aristocrat in Europe, it was not difficult to believe that Country X would continue to attract tourists. The ultimate goal that Yang Ming wanted to create was a private resort. This was also the foundation to maintain Country X's prosperity. Even after 100 years, as long as the vacation business on the island still existed, Yang Ming's descendants would have enough opportunities to contact the world's top billionaires. As long as these were grasped, the family would be prosperous forever. However, this was only a preliminary idea of Yang Ming. It would take a long time to put it into action. Just like the old-fashioned telephone in this room, these all needed to be replaced, but things always had to be done step by step. Yang Ming picked up the phone, and the voice of the previous doctor came from the other side. "Mr. Yang. I'm Dr. Jessica." "Hello, Dr. Jessica." Yang Ming's tone also became serious. "How is Victoria? Is she out of danger?" "Victoria, the situation is not very good. She may not make it past tonight." "Mr. Yang, do you want to come and see?" Dr. Jessica said with some difficulty. "What?" Yang Ming was shocked. Although he had already expected that this might be one of the results, when he really heard this, Yang Ming still had some sadness in his heart. It was not because Yang Ming lost a suitable bodyguard, but because he was sad for this poor girl. She was also a human, but she did not enjoy the joy of being a human, and she just left the world. "Okay, I will go over." Yang Ming said, "Sorry to trouble you, Dr. Jessica." "It's no trouble, but we have done our best," Dr. Jessica said quickly. After hanging up the phone, Yang Ming called Li Chang directly. This time, he did not bring General cars. It was enough for Li Chang to drive. Huang Lele, perhaps because of the tiredness of the day, had already gone to bed early. Yang Ming did not disturb her again. Li Chang's car soon stopped under the villa where Yang Ming lived. Yang Ming went out of the villa and got in the car. Li Chang did not say anything. He tacitly started the car and drove in the direction of the hospital. Shoujia City at night was simply dark. There was no nightlife at all. This was obviously not possible. The goal here was to be a city that never sleeps, so that it could attract those rich people to come here for a vacation. Li Chang, wait for a while. Find some time to go to Henry Island. Yang Ming looked out of the dark window and instructed Li Chang. Henry Island. Since Li Chang came here, he also began to care about international affairs. Of course, he had heard of the existence of Henry Island. However, Li Chang obviously did not think that Yang Ming would let him go to Henry Island for a vacation. There were so many things to be done here. How could there be time to go on a vacation? Obviously, what Yang Ming said had another meaning. Li Chang thought about it and thought of the similarities between Country X and Henry Island. They were both private island-shaped territories, and the climate was very warm and pleasant. Yang Ming wanted to develop this place into another Henry Island. Brother Yang wants to develop this place into a resort. After Li Chang understood, he asked tentatively. Yang Ming nodded. Yes, if this place wants to develop for a long time, it must have some focus. Although this place is called a country, it is actually not a country. In the end, it is just a private territory. Internationally, it is impossible to obtain the status of a country. In this way, we have a lot of inconveniences. If we want to develop this place, we can't just invest money in it. We have to find ways to make money. Although contracting the development rights of the mines is very profitable, these are one-off. We have contracted the development rights for 10 years. In these 10 years, we have to face a situation of zero income. So, I think that developing the resort tourism industry will allow us to have a steady flow of money into our pockets. Assassins and mercenary organizations. Aren't they also very profitable? Li Chang asked carefully. These things can't be put on the table. We still have to form a pillar of the industry. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, "What do you think of this matter?" I think that as long as we have the resources of guests, this plan is very feasible. I am afraid that after it is built, there will be too few tourists. Li Chang carefully expressed his thoughts. The source of guests is not a problem. You don't have to worry about this. Yang Ming said. As long as old Buffon was there, then the source of guests was not a problem at all. He believed that as long as the guests came once and were satisfied with this place, there would be a second and third time. Yang Ming didn't want these people to come because of old Buffon's favor. Old Buffon's favor was only used as a bait. No matter how useful the favor was, if the supporting facilities couldn't keep up, people would consider the favor once or twice, but they would always hesitate for the third time. Yang Ming would not do this kind of one-off business, so Yang Ming must complete the supporting facilities before opening the door to receive guests. As long as there is no problem with the source of guests, then we can do it. Li Chang nodded. Brother Yang, when do I leave? After I return to China in these 2 days, the bidding meeting here will be over. You can go then. Yang Ming said, right, you can take Lu Xinyang with you. His mind is more flexible. Let him experience it. Maybe he can come up with better ideas when he comes back. The car drove into the hospital. This time, Li Chang drove his own car. After the guard saw Li Chang, he directly let him in and did not make a mistake like before. He quickly went upstairs and came to the intensive care unit. At the door, Yang Ming saw Dr. Jessica. "Mr. Yang, you are here." Dr. Jessica quickly came over and greeted Yang Ming. When she saw Li Chang next to Yang Ming, she quickly said, "Captain Li, you are here too." Yang Ming nodded slightly and asked, "How is Victoria?" "I'm really sorry." Dr. Jessica's face showed a bit of apology. "Victoria, she can't make it." Yang Ming looked at Dr. Jessica's face and was shocked. Yang Ming did not expect that Victoria could not hold on in the end and left this world. Victoria understood that from the moment the Egyptians sold her to Bobby, she had no freedom in her life. That remote control could control her life and death. Although there were many times when her life was worse than death, a bad life was better than a good death. Who was willing to die? Victoria put away her unrealistic thoughts. Her heart was far from being as cold as her appearance. It was just that she couldn't show all this. Even if she showed it, who could she talk to? Bobby? This is simply a big joke. Bobby is such a high and mighty person. Will he have a heart-to-heart talk with a slave? Victoria could only pin all her hopes and expectations on her afterlife, if there was really an afterlife. Her extravagant hopes were not high. She didn't have to live too well, but she could go to school, work, and even have a boyfriend like a normal girl. All of this could only be envisioned in the dead of night. The life of a normal person was unattainable. Although it was right beside her, Victoria could never escape the shackles of fate. Victoria turned sideways and placed her head in a more comfortable position. Lying in bed for a long time made her feel that her neck was a little stiff. What is this? Victoria suddenly felt that there seemed to be something under her neck, which made her a little uncomfortable. Victoria quickly touched her neck with her other arm that did not have an infusion. It was a square matchbox-sized thing. Victoria took out the square thing and put it in front of her. When she looked at it, she was stunned. This was the remote control for the bomb in her body. She glanced at the number on it. It was really her own one. Victoria was very familiar with this thing. She knew this thing since she was a child. Many times, this thing was in front of her, in the hands of the Egyptians, but she couldn't get it. But at this moment, this remote control was placed on the side of her bed. What does this mean? Could it be that Bobby left it here? Victoria obviously didn't believe that Bobby would take the initiative to put it on the bed. She knew Bobby's character too well. Bobby was a cold-blooded guy, especially when it came to his slaves. He simply had an indifferent attitude. Even if Bobby wanted to give up a slave, he wouldn't let that slave have an easy time. If one were to say that Bobby returned the remote control to Victoria because she had fought for him for many years, Victoria would not believe it because this matter was too funny for Bobby. Or if this was Bobby testing her, then it was even more unnecessary because the loyalty of slaves did not need to be tested. The loyalty of slaves did not come from their hearts, but the master's strong pressure made them unable to resist. It was a waste of time to test the loyalty of a low-level slave in this way. Therefore, the only possibility that Victoria could think of was that Bobby accidentally forgot the remote control here. Victoria took a deep breath and looked at the remote control in her hand nervously. Her whole body trembled involuntarily. Yes, she was very excited. She knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for her. A good opportunity to say goodbye to her previous slave life and escape. Although Victoria had not seen the world and had not lived independently in society, this did not hinder her pursuit of happiness and freedom. Although Victoria also understood that Bobby's network was strong enough to spread all over the world, and he might be able to catch her the next day after she escaped, Victoria did not care. She had already thought it through. Even if it was just one day of freedom, she was satisfied. Therefore, Victoria thought of escaping. This was her only chance. Thinking of this, Victoria quickly pulled out the infusion tube on her other arm with her hand, then got up and jumped out of bed. The wound on her body was suddenly affected, making Victoria grin involuntarily. It was obviously unrealistic to go out from the front door of the ward. Victoria was not sure whether there were guards or doctors outside the front door. The outside of the window of the ward was also covered with protective steel windows. It was impossible to escape from the window. The only hope was the bathroom in the ward. There was generally a ventilation channel in the bathroom. She might be able to escape through the ventilation channel. Thinking of this, Victoria endured the pain in her body and quickly flashed into the bathroom. Victoria lived in a high-level intensive care unit, which was for some powerful people, but because Victoria had now become Yang Ming's person, she was sent to this ward. Therefore, there was a separate bathroom in this ward. Although the bathroom was decorated very simply, it was very clean. There were people who came to clean it every day. After entering the bathroom, Victoria first locked the door of the bathroom, and then began to study the ventilation channel in the bathroom. It's almost time. Let's go. Dr. Jessica looked at her watch and then said to Yang Ming, Mr. Yang, if there is no accident, Victoria will wake up soon. She is out of the critical period, and all the indicators are close to normal. Yang Ming stood up after listening and followed Dr. Jessica out of the lounge with Li Chang. The food that had just been sent from the hospital's cafeteria was very delicious. Yang Ming was very full. For Yang Ming, he didn't like to eat any delicacies. This kind of ordinary home-cooked meal made Yang Ming feel very comfortable. Dr. Jessica pushed open the door of the ward and said, Mr. Yang, please come in. Ah. Dr. Jessica exclaimed in surprise as she looked at the empty ward. Where is he? Why is she gone? Yang Ming and Li Chang also entered the ward. With Dr. Jessica's exclamation, they saw the empty bed and the infusion bottle that was about to run out. Brother Yang, I am afraid that Victoria escaped after she woke up. Li Chang said with a wry smile, maybe, Bobby is right. You shouldn't have returned the remote control to Victoria. Otherwise, you will be using it to control her. Control her. Yang Ming shook his head. I never thought about controlling her. Victoria, she has the right to choose her own life. If she doesn't want to stay, then I don't need to force her. Brother Yang. You asked for Victoria from Bobby's hands just to let her go. Li Chang looked at Yang Ming with some confusion. Yes, give her freedom. Yang Ming said faintly. Chapter 1202. Yes, give her freedom. Yang Ming said faintly, I said that she has the right to choose her life. If she doesn't want to stay, I won't force her. Ah. Li Chang didn't expect Yang Ming's real thoughts to be like this. Brother Yang, then you didn't want to keep her from the beginning? We thought that you had taken a liking to her beauty. Li Chang and Yang Ming had known each other for a long time. They were the kind of people who were relatively close, so he didn't have so many scruples when he spoke. He also understood that Yang Ming regarded him as a friend and a brother. Subordinates were just a formality. Yang Ming listened to Li Chang's words and suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He kicked Li Chang lightly and said, No way. Am I such an unbearable person like you? I have a lot of women around me. How can I love every one of them? Hee hee. Li Chang laughed twice and said, We misunderstood. It turns out that Brother Yang, you just want to give her freedom, not exactly. Yang Ming waved his hand and sighed. He said with some regret, In fact, I want to bring her back to China and let her go to school with Chen Mengyan and the others. This way, she can secretly protect the safety of Chen Mengyan and the others. Of course, although she is a bodyguard in name, her external identity is also a college student. So that's how it is. I was wondering why you spent so much effort to rescue her. Li Chang nodded and said in realization. Victoria, at this moment, was listening to the conversation outside with her ears perked up and leaning on the bathroom door. The sound of the door opening just now shocked Victoria, but fortunately, the people who came in did not seem to notice the situation in the bathroom. Therefore, Victoria put her ear on the bathroom door and listened to the movement outside, so that she could implement her escape plan after the people outside left. She was Chinese. Even the Egyptians didn't know this. This was a secret in the depths of her heart. So she could understand the conversation between Yang Ming and Li Chang. However, Yang Ming's words moved the fragile heart under Victoria's tough appearance. Give her freedom. She had the right to choose her life. These two short sentences made Victoria's eyes brim with tears, and she couldn't hold back her tears. For 18 years, no one had ever said such a thing to her. Not to mention giving her freedom, he had never given her anything else. She was a slave, a machine that had been trained to kill. She didn't have her own freedom or her own life. All she had was to work hard until the day she died. No one had ever given her respect, but at this moment, Yang Ming said that he would give her freedom. Victoria didn't like to talk, but it didn't mean that she couldn't understand what others were saying. Yang Ming's few words made Victoria understand the ins and outs of why she could survive. Sure enough, it was the man outside who took her from Bobby's hands. It was this man who saved her. If it was Bobby, this was simply impossible. Victoria's heart began to sway at this moment. Indeed, she wanted to be free. She wanted to run away. However, the man outside set a condition that moved her even more. Go to college. Although she was secretly working as a bodyguard for someone, it didn't matter. What was important was that she could go to school like a normal girl. This was the life that Victoria had dreamed of. However, there were shortcomings in everything. Not to mention whether what the man outside said was true or false. Even if it was true, Victoria also understood that her identity in front of him was always that of a servant. This couldn't be changed. However, the advantage was that this was much better than being a fugitive. Victoria was penniless and didn't know where to escape. She didn't even know how to integrate into society and how to go to school. Since the man outside could get her from Bobby's hands, he should have a certain amount of power. My problems may not be a problem at all when it comes to him. However, Victoria said to Yang Ming, am I such an unbearable person? I have a lot of women around me. How can I love every one of them? She was secretly unhappy. Victoria had seen a lot of filthy people in the upper class. Didn't men love every one of them? Victoria knew that she was very beautiful, and the reason why Bobby didn't touch her. Victoria also knew that Bobby was afraid that she would resist and perish together with him. Therefore, after listening to Yang Ming's words, Victoria was slightly dissatisfied. While she secretly scolded Yang Ming for being hypocritical, she was also slightly unconvinced. Are the women around him as beautiful as fairies? While Victoria was complaining about Yang Ming, she also made the most important decision in her life. Victoria opened the door of the bathroom and walked out with a normal expression. Ah! You are actually here. Dr. Jessica was frightened by Victoria's disappearance. She was afraid that Yang Ming would blame her. When she saw Victoria actually coming out of the bathroom, she was relieved, but her tone was still a little panicked. I just went to the bathroom. I'm sorry. Victoria showed an apologetic expression. After I woke up, I needed to go to the toilet. It turned out to be like this. It's good that you are fine. Jessica nodded and said. Yang Ming looked at Victoria with a deep meaning and smiled faintly. Although Victoria's expression was very natural, she was too natural. However, Jessica obviously didn't notice this, and Yang Ming didn't intend to expose her. Victoria might have an amazing talent in killing, but in terms of disguise, she was much worse. She might want to tell a perfect lie, but she didn't do it. After all, she was a person who had just woken up. How could she be so calm when she saw Jessica, Yang Ming, and Li Chang, these three strangers? She was too calm, which could only explain one problem. That was, she pretended to be calm, and her cleverness backfired on her. In fact, when Yang Ming just entered the room, Yang Ming noticed Victoria in the bathroom. Others couldn't see her, but for Yang Ming, who had special abilities, it was easy. Therefore, when Yang Ming talked to Li Chang, he deliberately said something that could move Victoria. Of course, these words were indeed Yang Ming's true thoughts, but he deliberately said it in front of Victoria. What Yang Ming found interesting was that Victoria could actually understand Chinese. Yang Ming's original plan was to find a topic to say those words to Dr. Jessica in English after he finished talking to Li Chang. But now it seemed that it was no longer necessary. "Did you save me?" Victoria looked at Dr. Jessica. "Thank you, Doctor." "No, you should be thanking Mr. Yang. It was his idea that we sent you to the hospital." Dr. Jessica naturally wanted to sell Yang Ming's favor. "According to Mr. Bobby's intention, you were thrown into the sea to feed the fish." Although Victoria was very clear about the fate of the other slaves, now that she heard Dr. Jessica's words, she still had a palpitation of surviving a disaster. In her eyes, there was also a trace of hatred. Of course, this hatred was directed at Bobby. "Thank you, Mr. Yang." Victoria's sentence was from the bottom of her heart. She had never expressed gratitude to anyone, but today was the first time. "You don't have to say thank you." Yang Ming smiled. "I saved you because I naturally have a use for you. I believe you heard what we just said." "What did you say?" At this moment, Yang Ming and Victoria were talking in English, so Victoria continued to pretend to be stupid. "There are some things that we don't need to say, right, Miss Victoria?" Yang Ming used Chinese this time. After he finished speaking, he looked at Victoria with a smile. Victoria looked embarrassed. She didn't expect Yang Ming to guess that she understood Chinese. However, there was nothing to hide. She didn't tell the Egyptian and Bobby before because there was no need to do so. The relationship between her, the Egyptian, and Bobby was completely a master-servant relationship. Victoria didn't need to tell them. She just needed to create benefits for them. "Well, I admit it. Just now in the bathroom, I heard your conversation." Victoria nodded and readily admitted it. "In this case, do you have any opinion on my proposal?" Yang Ming was also very satisfied with Victoria's honesty. "Whether you go or stay is in your hands. If you want to leave, I will bless you. You don't have to go out from the bathroom vent. You can go out from the hospital gate. I will not only let you leave, but I will also give you some support for travel expenses." When Yang Ming said this, he paused and waited for Victoria's statement. However, Victoria did not make a sound. She stood there quietly, waiting for Yang Ming's next words. "Of course, if you don't want to go, you can continue to follow me and return to China with me. I will arrange for you to enter a university. Your identity on the surface is a college student. I will not limit your personal freedom, but you have to secretly protect the safety of my girlfriends," said Yang Ming. "I will go back with you." Victoria actually had an answer in her heart. After Yang Ming finished speaking, she replied without hesitation. Yang Ming gave her respect and freedom, making her feel that she was now an equal person with others. Moreover, Yang Ming's tone of discussion made Victoria somewhat flattered. In any case, Victoria was willing to follow Yang Ming just because of his attitude toward her. Once was enough for her. So, Victoria handed over the remote control that was vital to her. But when she heard that Yang Ming was still making sarcastic remarks, Victoria immediately pouted and said with grievance, "Didn't you want it? If I want it, you hand it over." Yang Ming was very satisfied with Victoria's action. He didn't reach out to take the remote control but continued to ask, "What if I don't hand it over? Since I have decided to follow you, then the remote control is naturally still in your hands." Victoria was very aware. She shrugged and said naturally, "Actually, it doesn't matter. I have already thought it through." Hee hee. Yang Ming took the remote control from Victoria's hand and smiled. In fact, this remote control is no longer of any use. Dr. Jessica knows this best. Isn't that right, Dr. Jessica? Victoria looked at Yang Ming inexplicably. She didn't know what he meant. Yes, Miss Victoria. During the operation, I have already taken out the chip in your body and handed it to Mr. Yang. Dr. Jessica listened to Yang Ming's words and quickly explained. Taken out. Victoria was stunned at first, then her face showed a joyful expression. Really? Dr. Jessica nodded affirmatively. All of this came too suddenly. The chip in her body had once become a nightmare for Victoria. Victoria dreamed of taking out the chip in her body, but she couldn't. Under the eyes of Bobby and the Egyptians, it was impossible for her to perform this kind of surgery. She did not have any opportunity to contact people in this area, so Victoria just thought about it when she was dreaming. When she was awake, she would not have such unrealistic ideas. I think there should be such a trust between us. Yang Ming smiled. Now, when you return the remote control to me, I can be sure that you absolutely trust me. So, I told you about taking out the chip in your body. Thank you. Victoria was really moved this time. Tears lingered in her eyes a few times, and finally fell down. Am I very useless? I am a boxer, and I actually cried. I didn't do it in the ring. Yang Ming shook his head. No, this is not useless, but it shows that you have found yourself and become a person with feelings. I hope you can show your emotions on your face, not that cold face of yours. I will work hard. Victoria tried her best to smile. She felt that her choice today would change her future life. She was no longer a slave, a boxer who worked for her master. Yang Ming and Li Chang left Victoria's ward together. When they went downstairs, Li Chang gave Yang Ming a thumbs up. Brother Yang, you are really good at buying people's hearts. Really? Yang Ming waved his hand. I admit that I deliberately said some words in front of Victoria, but in fact, I do think so. Li Chang, as a superior, it is right to say some beautiful words, but you must fulfill what you said. Don't always say empty words. Beautiful words can buy people's hearts, but lies can also lose people's hearts. Li Chang nodded thoughtfully. He knew that Yang Ming was reminding him to do this when he spoke in the future. Early the next morning, Li Ziqing found his old acquaintance, Jeffers. Hey, Jeffers, how is it? Do you want to have breakfast together? Li Ziqing patted Jeffers on the shoulder enthusiastically and said to him. In this bid, Jeffers only maintained the small coal mine in his hands and did not have any breakthroughs. However, this was already very satisfying for him, because his strength was already relatively weak, so he did not dare to compete with others for anything. Oh. Mr. Li. When Jeffers saw that it was Li Ziqing, he subconsciously took 2 steps back, but in the end, he stood still. Li Ziqing naturally saw Jeffers' reaction, but he did not feel anything. He thought that Jeffers was frightened by him and could not help but react. Hee hee, of course, it's me. Let's go. How about we go to my room to enjoy breakfast together? I asked Tianjia to buy good porridge. It's very fragrant. Jeffers hesitated, looked around, and found that there was no one else. He nodded and said, "Well, then let's go to your room." Jeffers naturally heard the rumors about Li Ziqing, so when he saw Li Ziqing, he subconsciously kept a certain distance from him. However, because of their previous relationship, Jeffers could not talk to Li Ziqing. Now, Li Ziqing invited him to have breakfast together. Originally, Jeffers wanted to refuse, but when he heard that they were only going to his room, not to the public restaurant, and that they were going to eat delicious porridge, Jeffers reluctantly agreed. Li Ziqing also slightly noticed that something seemed to be wrong with Jeffers, but he did not think about it. What he cared about now was to get rid of the iron ore and half of the gold mine in his hands as soon as possible, and then leave this damn place. Jeffers carefully followed Li Ziqing to his room. Seeing that no one saw him, Jeffers breathed a sigh of relief. After entering the door, he became more enthusiastic. "Mr. Li, why are you so polite? You invited me to eat so early in the morning." "Hee, we have a good relationship." Li Ziqing stared at him and lied. Although Li Ziqing and Jeffers were familiar before, they were only familiar with each other. It was far from a good relationship. Hee. Jeffers naturally did not take it seriously and laughed twice with Li Ziqing. "Jeffers, now there is a great thing that is going to happen to you. How about it? Do you want to hear it?" Li Ziqing closed the door and said mysteriously. "Great thing? What good thing?" Jeffers was stunned and looked at Li Ziqing with some surprise. "If it weren't for our good relationship, I wouldn't have found you first." Li Ziqing lowered his voice and said, "This time, you got the right to operate a coal mine, right?" Although Jeffers was somewhat inexplicable about why Li Ziqing said this, he nodded and said, "Yes, you know my strength. How can I be qualified to compete with others for those profitable mines? Who doesn't want to make more money? But I can't not know my limits, right? Hee, but now there is a great opportunity in front of you." Li Ziqing said, "It depends on whether you want to grasp it or not." Chapter 1204. What good opportunity? Jeffers was confused by Li Ziqing. He still hadn't figured out what Li Ziqing wanted to say. "I am going to transfer the management rights of the iron mine to you." Li Ziqing seemed to be talking about a good thing. He looked up and winked at Jeffers. "Of course, I can also transfer the ownership of half of the gold mine to you. How about it? Is it enough?" "What? Transfer it to me?" Jeffers was stunned and looked at Li Ziqing with some amazement. "Yeah, how about it? Are you surprised? And it's the original price." Li Ziqing patted Jeffers' shoulder and said, "Original price?" Jeffers looked at the smiling Li Ziqing and suddenly thought of the rumor he heard last night. Li Ziqing wanted to transfer the management rights of the gold mine to Bobby, but Bobby directly refused. Yesterday, when he heard it, Jeffers didn't believe it. After all, it was difficult to tell whether this kind of thing was true or not. But today, he believed it. Because Li Ziqing found Jeffers again and wanted to transfer the ownership of the iron mine and gold mine in his hands. If Li Ziqing really wanted to transfer the ownership in his hands, then the best transferor of the ownership of the gold mine was Bobby because he had the ownership of the other half of the gold mine, but Li Ziqing found him, which showed that the rumor yesterday was true. Only after Bobby refused, Li Ziqing would find someone else. Otherwise, why didn't he transfer the gold mine to Bobby? The management rights of this half of the gold mine were the biggest for Bobby. Only in Bobby's hands could the benefits be maximized. For others, it was obviously not attractive. Therefore, when Li Ziqing said that he wanted to transfer the management rights of half of the gold mine to him, Jeffers immediately realized this. Even Bobby didn't dare to take the gold mine. How could Jeffers dare to take it? Obviously, he didn't dare. Yes, the original price. How about it? This is not a problem for you, right? Li Ziqing saw Jeffers' surprised expression and didn't think much about it. He thought that Jeffers was flattered. The price is not a problem for me. Although Jeffers only operated a small coal mine, the profit of this kind of thing was unimaginable. Therefore, even if it was only a small coal mine, Jeffers' family was not thin. It was more than enough for him to buy Li Ziqing's iron ore mine and half of the gold mine. However, Jeffs did not dare to buy it. Although he was very tempted by Li Ziqing's suggestion, he was not someone who did not know the rules. To survive in this land, he had to abide by the rules here. Bobby couldn't afford to offend the person. Jeffers didn't even dare to think about it. He didn't want to offend a big shot because of a temporary interest. He couldn't even manage the coal mine in the end. Therefore, all Jeffs could think of was to refuse. He had no choice but to refuse. Since it's not a problem, then let's study the specific matters of the transfer. Li Ziqing didn't wait for Jeffers to finish and quickly interrupted him. No, Mr. Li, listen to me first. Jeffers waved his hand and said, the price is not a problem, but I don't want to buy the management rights of the iron and gold mines in your hands. What? You don't want to buy it? Li Ziqing's eyes widened. Jeffers, are you mistaken? You don't want to buy it. Didn't you tell me before that you wanted to have more minerals? Oh, yes, but that was in the past, not now. Now I have changed my mind and can operate my small coal mine with peace of mind. I am satisfied. Yes, satisfied. That's it. Jeffers said incoherently. After all, his relationship with Li Ziqing was relatively harmonious before. Now, he directly refused, which made him feel a little sorry. However, he really couldn't help Li Ziqing. At the same time, he also hated Li Ziqing in his heart. Obviously, he had offended a big shot, so he had to quickly transfer the mines in his hands and leave here. However, Yang Ming acted like a savior as if he had given him a big advantage. This made Jeffers very annoyed. Jeffers didn't believe that Li Ziqing didn't understand this. If he didn't know that he had offended someone, how could he sell the mineral management rights in his hands? And it was the original price. Unless his brain was punctured. As a matter of fact, this mineral management rights were not easy to obtain. Even if it was transferred, it was impossible to transfer it at the original price. However, Li Ziqing transferred it at the original price. This made people ponder deeply. Originally, Jeffers planned to tell Li Ziqing about the rumors outside, but now, Li Ziqing seemed to treat him as a fool. This was what Jeffers couldn't tolerate, so Jeffers didn't intend to tell Li Ziqing about the rumors he heard outside yesterday. It was better to let this guy be kept in the dark. What the hell is going on? Jeffers, are you kidding? You are not tempted by such favorable conditions. When Li Ziqing saw that Jeffers refused, he was at a loss. Previously, he was full of confidence. He felt that as long as Jeffers was not a fool, he would definitely buy the iron mine and half of the gold mine management rights from him. However, his idea was once again defeated. Just like the contrast before and after finding Bobby yesterday, Li Ziqing's heart couldn't bear it. Jeffers snorted coldly in his heart. He thought, it is a lie to say that I am not tempted, but I also need to have the capital to be tempted. The kind of power struggle between the big shots is not something that people at my level can participate in. Li Ziqing, the victim, can only be sacrificed naturally. I am really not tempted, and I am not interested. Jeffers' expression showed a very indifferent posture. He was somewhat disgusted with Li Ziqing's face. Not interested. How is this possible? Li Ziqing looked at Jeffers with some unwillingness. Are you kidding me? This is not funny at all. You know, this opportunity is rare. I am the first to find you. If you don't want it, there are many people waiting in line to take it. You know, the relationship between the two of us is very good, so I contacted you first. I don't want to let others take advantage of me. Jeffers had a feeling of vomiting. He looked at Li Ziqing's face that was not red even when he was lying. He shook his head silently. No, let others take advantage of you. The first to find me. Jeffers wanted to laugh on the spot. How many times was it when I found Bobby yesterday? The 0th time. If it can be calculated like this, take advantage of me. This is simply harming others. Fortunately, I am well informed and know some secret things. Otherwise, if I buy the mines in Li Ziqing's hands stupidly, not to mention that the money may be in vain, but it is hard to say whether I can continue to mingle here. Thankfully, Li Ziqing was the first one who didn't find him. Otherwise, Jeffers might have been fooled. It is really dangerous. However, after all, they have been in a relationship for many years. Before Jeffers left, he decided to remind Li Ziqing. Mr. Li, why do you want to transfer these 2 mines of yours? Ugh. Oh, this is the case. My business in Singapore has some cash flow problems. I want to get rid of the iron ore mine and half of the gold mine management rights as soon as possible so that I can take the money to fill the deficit there. Li Ziqing casually made up a lie. Jeffers shook his head and gave up the last reminder to Li Ziqing. This person was not worth his reminder. At this time, he was still lying, which made Jeffers very annoyed. He had just paid the mineral contract fee yesterday, and he was in a hurry to use the money today. If he was not crazy, then he was talking nonsense. I wish you good luck. I am really not interested in your iron ore mine and half of the gold mine. Jeffers patted Li Ziqing's shoulder and walked out of Li Ziqing's room. He did not drink the porridge in front of him. Li Ziqing did not ask him to stay. The ultimate reason why he invited Jeffers to drink the porridge was to transfer the mineral management rights to him. Since he had refused, there was nothing to talk about. As for whether Jeffers drank the porridge or not, it was not Li Ziqing's concern. Motherfucker. Li Ziqing scolded. Why are all of you acting like you are crazy? You are not interested in such a popular thing. I don't believe that if you two are not interested, everyone is not interested. After Jeffers went out of Li Ziqing's room, he began to spread the news everywhere. Li Ziqing had hurt his heart. He decided not to leave any face for Li Ziqing. Hey, do you know who was looking for me just now? Jeffers came to the restaurant. He did not eat at all when he was in Li Ziqing's room, so after he came out, he went directly to the restaurant. Who? Big Mouth Mike immediately came over. He liked to inquire about these strange things. It's Li Ziqing. Jeffers smiled mysteriously. Oh. Mike immediately became interested. It's him. How is it? Why is he looking for you? What do you think he is looking for me for? Jeffers said deliberately. And, let me think about it. Mike nodded. I know. He must be selling you the management rights of his 2 mines, right? Is that the case? Yes, that's it. Jeffers confirmed Mike's words. Do you know what he said? He said that he let me take advantage of him. He let me see that he got a great deal. He wanted to transfer the management rights of the 2 mines to me at the original price. Moreover, he said that he thought of me first. Oh, ha 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 ha. After Mike heard it, he laughed. The first, ha ha ha, it's so funny. What do you say?